What is good, family? This is your girl. I am Courtney Michelle. Thank you for joining me again for another live. We have another one back to back. This is unusual for me, but I just feel like there was a lot to talk about. And today, you guys saw the thumbnail. We are going to talk about feminism. Oh my gosh. You guys know in this space, that is the ultimate swear word. Feminism, and who's a feminist, and you have feminist ideas and this and that. And today I wanted to talk about it, and not only that, I wanted to examine what exactly is feminism. A lot of us know that there's been different waves of feminism, but I don't think we know what wave is this wave and where did we get it wrong? Are we getting it right? Can we get it right with feminism? And is there a balance that we can find between feministic ideas and more traditional ideas? So I wanted to talk about that today. And we're going to go over a Jubilee clip that was posted maybe a few days ago. And I watched it and I was like, man, I should have been on this panel. So Jubilee, if you're watching, holla at your girl. Okay. But I'm going to talk about this, but I do have a special guest that I'm going to bring up. She's going to go over this with me. You guys know that she is my awesome dear friend in these YouTube streets, but also in real life. And I'm going to bring her up to have a chit chat about feminism and why is it so bad. So let me find my darling friend, TJ Randolph. And while I think she's getting it together, I want to say what is going on. I see you guys in the chat. My lovely Barry Brio, what is going on? Salam, I see you, my brother. Thank you guys for joining me today. So, TJ, is you ready to join me? And let's talk about feminazi and see how we getting it right or getting it wrong.
Yeah.
What is going on, TJ?
Ain't nothing to it the way you do it.
It's been a minute. How is everything with you?
Merry New Year.
Merry New Year. Merry New Year. Well, thank you for joining me. So first, before I start going in and we start talking about it, first, you kind of, let me see, make sure you cleared up, darling. Okay. It was kind of coming in, kind of Grady looking.
Do I need to go out and come back in?
Sure, if you want to.
Y'all go out and come back in. Because I look clear. You look clear, but if I don't look, let me go out and come back in.
Go ahead and we'll clear you guys up. So what's going on, Vincent? Yeah, this is going to be interesting because I want to talk about what are our ideas of what feminism is. Did it help us? Did it really hurt us? Let's see. TJ, are you back? What's going on, Chris? I see you. Let's see if I can add Miss TJ back. Well, while she's getting it together, we're going to go ahead and get into it. And I see you. Let me remove you from here. We'll make it do what it do.
I can see you good.
Wow, it looks like it. Maybe it's just me. Can you guys see TJ pretty good? All right. Well, let's rock. So, have you seen what I'm about to show? And this is a Jubilee video, and it was women that agree with feminism and women that were anti-feminism. Have you had a chance to see that? No. Yay. Okay, good. So we're going to get your first reaction. So this should be good. All right, let me pop it up.
I think the concept of anti-feminism is like counterintuitive as a woman. Like everyone should want equality of sexes, you know? Everyone should want to have this.
It started from the
You
beginning.
should be a feminist.
So let me get your reaction first. Should women be a feminist?
To a point.
Okay, so what is your idea of feminism and why should it be to a point?
I think when we talk about, when I think about it, I think opportunity for education, opportunity for employment, all things considered, meaning if we are vying for the same type of job, I should have equal consideration based on my qualifications. However, I have never, ever, ever said that I want to do everything a man does, i.e., military.
Mm-hmm.
I volunteered. I'm not trying to be on the front line. So, no. To a point.
To a point. So we should have equality to a point?
Equal opportunity to a point.
Okay.
Opportunity.
Equal opportunity. All right. So let's see what these ladies have to say.
I think the concept of anti-feminism is like counterintuitive as a woman. Like everyone should want equality of sexes, you know? Everyone should want to have the same education level, the same all these things in a position and still make as much as a person who identifies as male.
In this society, we have to be feminists as women because there's certain things going on where our rights are being stripped away, and Black women, Black trans women are more likely to be murdered and attacked, and that's absolutely a feminist issue, and that's something that everyone should care about.
Everyone of any gender expression, men included, should be feminists.
I think there are different.
Okay, so I see your hand going up. So right now what we're saying is that everyone should be a feminist, and the idea of feminism should also include trans women.
No. I mean, this is, I mean, I think this is when the waters get muddy. I mean, and like I said, I think when we're talking about equal opportunity for education, equal opportunity for employment.
Mm-hmm.
However, in my opinion, when you bring trans women into it, in my opinion, that lends itself to being a male.
All right.
Because
hold that
that's a
thought.
male.
Hold that thought. They're going to get into it a little bit more. Let's see
Okay.
what they have to say. Hold on.
Brands of feminism, if you will, that don't represent what I think all of us here feel is the true ideal of what feminism
Absolutely.
is.
And I don't think that everyone has to be active as a feminist in the exact same way. Like, not everybody can march, not everybody can protest, not everybody can really be an advocate for feminism.
At the end of the day, it's taking a look at patriarchal systems and seeing the flaws in those systems and how they negatively impact everyone.
I pause on that thought. Can the disagreeers step forward?
Define woman. Go, please. One of you.
A person who their internal idea of what they are is a woman.
Terrible definition. Coming from a lesbian, that destroys the very concept of our sexual orientation.
All right. Now I don't know if you know, but in the LGBT community, there has been a lot of bickering going back and forth between lesbians and the T as far as with trans women. And what lesbians have been saying is that even in this feminist movement where we're wanting equality for women and we want women to be on an equal playing field as men, when we bring trans women in the equation, it is taking out the idea of women or even cis women. So now it's not about equality of my particular gender. Now it's equality of me also including others that wasn't born biologically woman. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and I agree with that. Again, that's where the waters get very muddy. Because when we consider the feminist movement, I mean, I'm not going to say that I am a scholar on all the versions of the feminist movement, but I am well enough to know when we talk about feminist movement, we're talking about from the onset reproductive rights. We're talking about equal opportunity of education and employment,
Mm-hmm.
or as it relates to being, when we looked at far as men or males. So I don't care. I'm sorry, I don't want to get you.
That's all right. That's all right.
I don't care what you call yourself. I don't care. You can,
Mhm.
I don't care what you identify as, whatsoever. You are a male. So when we're talking about, I'm thinking feminism as it relates to biological women. That's what I'm thinking.
That's what you're thinking. Okay,
Yes.
let's go.
saying that it's an
But
idea.
why?
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 Because you can't be connected and sexually attracted to somebody's brain.
What do Black women gain from feminism? Because I remember even during Black Lives Matter, when I led 2 protests for Black women, and I counted how many white women I saw there, and the ones who were there who were just there to take pictures for social media, and then the Black men also hiding behind us. Everyone, the whole world hides behind Black women. Enough. I particularly think I'm a humanist. For example, 2 years ago, I was a raging feminist, and I made a decision to pivot my platform, teach Black women how to sit in our feminine energy, because we've never experienced that.
Well, that just sounds like Black feminism to me, teaching women how to do that in the time that we are in now.
But we're not learning fast enough. We deserve to rest. We deserve to relax. We deserve to choose if we want to be a traditional wife. I went from law to being a CEO to now I just want to be a housewife. And every time I say that, I get so much hate. Like, women work so hard to get to this point. Why do you want to be a housewife? Because
Because that's you
my
want.
choice.
That's what you want.
That's
That's
a
the whole
choice.
point.
Feminism is all about choice.
Okay. So she brought up something interesting. And, a lot of times when we're in this space, we have blamed feminism for one of the reasons of the downfall in Black America. Do you agree with that statement? That feminism is one of the issues that has been a downfall in our community?
Yes, I do. And I had a conversation with my mom about that not too long ago, within the last year. And, my mom, was a young adult in the 70s. And she basically said that feminism basically was the bamboozle for the Black community, because it was never an issue that Black women needed to have the right to work outside the home, because most of the time Black women worked outside the home on the strength that many of the times they weren't hiring our Black men. So that was never an issue for Black women. But what did happen, though, with feminism, and we had these doors open as it related to education, as it related to more corporate type of jobs, we as women, we felt that we had outgrown our men, because most men were not told to go to school, they were told to go to work. So when we became educated, our mindset began to change, that we somehow thought we were better than our men. So in that respect, I think, yes, feminism did play a major role in destroying the Black community, the Black family, largely because we felt we had out-educated our men, we had out-earned our men, and because of that, they were no longer suitable to be our men.
Do you think the idea of feminism was not just us playing on an equal playing field, but also wanting to up men? So now the equal playing field is, now I can be over men too. Do you think that maybe that is where we're pushing it, or what feminism is about now? It's not just wanting to be equal, but now I want to be over the patriarchal that a lot of women think that we're under. Do you think that might be it?
I think that is part of it. And I'm not going to, in my opinion, again, these are my opinions, in a grander scheme of things, I think there is still patriarchy on the strength of, when it comes to a lot of decisions that are made, i.e. reproductive rights and stuff like that, mostly men are making those decisions. So in that vein, there is still some validity to that. But I think it kind of goes with what I said before. As we started to earn more, as we started to become educated, we somehow think we are better than. And and we are superior. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you what to do. And I'm gonna enjoy telling you what to do.
Got it. Let's look at this first. Because I want to break down what feminism is. Because I do not think it started off what it is what it has become. And we have the first wave of feminism. Again, there's 4. So let's go through this so we have an idea about the different phases and where it might have twisted and turned, where it became now. I honestly think feminism has become a tool to bully. So the first wave came in the 19th century, was not the first appearance of feminist ideas, but it was the first real political movement for the Western world. In 1792, Mary Wollstonecraft, published the Revolutionary Vindication of Rights of Women. In 1848, and again, this is long time ago, about 200 women met in a church. They came up with 12 resolutions asking for specific rights, such as the right to vote, reproductive rights, which you stated already, TJ, also became an important issue for early feminists. After years of feminist activism, Congress finally passed the 19th Amendment in 1920, gave women the right to vote. This was almost 30 years after New Zealand became the first country where women could vote. First wave feminism had a fairly simple goal: have society recognize that women are humans, not property. While the leaders of the first wave feminism were abolitionists, their focus was on white women's rights. This exclusion would haunt feminism for years to come. So, first wave of feminism was, I want to be able to be looked at as a human, meaning I want the right to vote just like men. But again, these were white women that was advocating for that. Should women vote?
Absolutely. And here's another thing you said here, going back to the vindication of women's rights in 1848. About my grandmother was born in 1878.
Mm-hmm.
So when we consider that, at a time in which my grandmother was born, again, my grandmother was Cherokee Indian, it just puts things in perspective that my grandmother was, considered not, I mean, of course, we know this was primarily white women, but my grandmother would not have been considered eligible to vote again and as property. So I think that for me, it always puts things in context, because I have family members I can remember that are in that time period. But you're absolutely right. It was not meant for us, because they didn't look at men, black men or women, as human beings. So it really wasn't pertaining to us anyway.
Right. So the first wave of feminism, that is the idea that I want people to understand, was white women going for the right to vote and to be looked at as a human and not property. So that was the first wave of feminism, which idealistically, okay, I get it. And it didn't include us, women that look like us, but for the white women, and I get it. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the first wave with feminism. Not necessarily. I mean, the exclusion of the brown folks, but okay, that's what they championed. So let's look at the second wave. Second wave feminism took place in the 1960s and the 70s. Now, this is where I'm familiar with, and this is where I thought that it started. But what we know, what we think where it started, this was actually the second wave, and this was the 60s and the 70s. It was built on the first wave of feminism and challenged what women's role in society should be. It was inspired by the civil rights movement and protests against the Vietnam War. Activists focused on the institutions that held women back. This meant taking a closer look at why women were oppressed. Traditional gender and family roles were questioned. Queer theory became more established. There were more victories in the era, including the Equal Pay Act of 1963, Roe versus Wade, and other Supreme Court cases. 3 main types of feminism emerged. You have mainstream, liberal, radical, and cultural. Okay. Mainstream feminism focused on institutional reforms, which meant reducing gender discrimination, giving women access to male dominated spaces, and promoting equality. Radical feminism wanted to reshape society entirely, saying that the system was inherently patriarchal and only an overhaul would bring liberation. It resisted the belief that men and women were basically the same. Cultural feminism had a similar view and taught that there is a female essence that's distant from men. So this is where I think we got it, where it started affecting us, because now we're looking at feminism versus traditional. We're looking at feminism not only as I want the right to vote and I want to be considered a human. Now we're looking at it. Well, now let's look at these institutions and let's look at these jobs that are male dominated. I want women in these jobs now. Let's look at the pay. Well, men are getting paid more than women. I want to make sure that we're equally paid. Roe versus Wade, no, I want the right to have, they say, full autonomy over my body.
I agree. And I see the morphing of it when we go to the radical feminism, because now it's like, I want to take over.
I want to take over.
I want to take over. And again, it says reforms reducing discrimination, just because when we talk about the 60s and 70s, really, for the most part, there were only certain types of jobs that really women did. They were secretarial jobs, they were teachers, they were nurses, flight attendants, they call stewardesses. So there were only certain types of jobs that were open to women. Again, we're talking about mainstream, so we're really not talking Black women, we're talking primarily white women. But again, like they say, when white America gets a cold, Black America gets the flu. So again, if we're talking about what was available to mainstream white women, we can only imagine what was available to Black women of the times. So again, I see the second wave is, I could kind of identify with the second wave having opportunity, like we said, to education and also jobs that were available to men, lawyers, doctors, those bankers, those kinds of things. But now we're talking about radical feminism. Now I want to take over.
I want to take over. What we stated before, it's not that I want to be on an equal playing field. Now I want to restructure the entire society.
Yeah. But I think it's funny because it's only to a point. And what I say about, and I don't want to get too far ahead of you, I think many of the women who are championing the idea of taking over, none of them wants to be on the front line of the war. And I'll be quiet.
Right. I hear you. All right. So let's look at third wave. All right. Thanks to the institutional victories of second wave feminism, women enjoyed more rights and power going into the 1900s. They were able to think about other aspects of their identity, welcoming individuality and rebellion. This was an era of reclaiming. Important cultural touchstones include, Eve Ensler's The Vagina Monologues. Oh, I remember those. The Guerrilla Girls, punk rock, riot girls, many women more freely expressed their sexuality in how they spoke, dressed, acted. This sometimes bewildered second wave feminists, many of whom had resisted traditional femininity. While many ideas and many movements swirled around the time, the one rule was that there weren't rules. A woman should choose how she lived her life. So now with third wave feminism, it's the first part is I want to live and express myself however I want to. So now that we're getting out of traditional roles, I don't even want to look traditional, and how traditional you looked at me as far as with sexuality and me, the virgin till I'm married. That idea is gone. I want to do whatever I want to do. There are no rules. See, it's just morphined. where it turned out to be just equal. Now I want to take over society. Now I want to eliminate anything that makes me even look like I am traditional. Let me go on further reading. It's third wave feminism also became more conscious of race. And so now we talking, Black women. Okay, there was a coined phrase of intersectionality in 1989. The term refers to how different kinds of oppression, like those based on gender and race, intersected with each other. While mainstream first and second wave feminism had largely ignored or neglected racial disparities within gender, the third wave paid more attention. The phrase third wave feminism was coined in 1992 by Rebecca Walker, a 23-year-old Black bisexual woman. When the internet became more commonplace, it was easier for her to hear perspective and ideas from feminists around the world. Feminism was expanded. So this is where I believe that Black women were more prevalent now in feminism, was the late 80s and the 90s, because now we're looking at race. And now with feminism, there were women saying, hey, the disparities is not just for your gender, it's also because you're Black. And now you have that double-edged sword of being a Black woman. So you need to be a feminist.
I would agree. And I'm smiling because, again, that is at the time when I was on the campus of the University of Oklahoma. Again, shout out to Kevin Samuels. And because many of us were in people's faces about these very things, battling the men, if you will, not physically, but again, meeting of the minds, stating that, you're not, you can't hold me down. I'm a Black woman and you're trying to oppress us. So, yeah.
So this is where it is. So again, I want to be like clear on where it started in our particular community, because feminism had nothing to do with Black folks until, like I said, with the 80s. And then you see with Alice Walker, which is the author, her Rebecca Walker, I think that was maybe her daughter.
Really?
Yeah, that was bisexual, that started to be kind of a face of feminism for Black women.
And when you consider the female authors of that time, I think, I think maybe Terry McMillan, you had, Sarah Nikki Giovanni, some of the poems, you had Audre Lorde, you had a lot of Black female writers. And again, when you're in the midst of certain things, I mean, it is what it is. When you're in the midst of certain things, you have no idea, if you don't have the foresight to see how it's going to affect you long term, because we didn't.
Right.
We didn't.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So now we are in the fourth quarter. The fourth wave. Some people think we're still in the third wave of feminism, which I can see. If you think of the slut walk, where women are walking and proud to be a slut because I can do whatever I want to do. I can have sex as much as men can. I can wear whatever I want to. That's why we have the IG models, just butt naked, traditional. Oh, you old school. So I still feel like we're in this third wave. But there is a fourth wave. And it says, this is under the Me Too movement and the resurgence of attacks on women's rights. Many believe we're living in a new wave. Social media activism has propelled the movement firmly into the technology age. It builds on the third wave's emphasis on inclusion, asking hard questions about empowerment, equality, and freedom, what that really means. It continues to reckon with intersectionality. Critics of white feminism, which I didn't know was a thing, ignores the unique struggles of women of color, exposes how non-white feminists and ideas have been and continue to be suppressed. Trans rights are a big part of the conversation too. Feminism has often been an unwelcoming and hostile place for trans women and others who reject the gender binary. Many fourth wave feminists are working to combat this exclusion. As with every wave before, the fourth wave is complex and encompasses many movements, both the complement and clash with each other. So I think this wave of feminism is we're loading up on the third, but this is particular also of more inclusion, which is going to equal trans women being feminist. And I think this is what the fourth wave is. It's trans rights.
And if I may, I think what many of, and I'm speaking from being a Black woman, I think what many of us have not anticipated, that this fourth wave with the inclusion is going to come at the expense of the exclusion
Of women?
Of biological women. And many of us Black women who are inclusive by nature, we are not prepared for the cost that we are going to have to pay. That because again, it's systematic, in my opinion. The equality, it's excluding the rights of biological women in favor of trans women. Because you're not hearing this about men trans.
Exactly. Why can't I choose?
Oh, excuse me. No, you're not. The trans women and trans men conversation, that's not even an equal conversation. Because what they're going through as far as trans women and trans men, I mean, we have to deal with a lot. Because now it's trans men are not necessarily advocating themselves in sports. I think because they know better.
Because they're losing.
Let's just
because they're losing.
You know, you don't hear about necessarily bathroom problems or women. You know, there was a story that just came out that there was, I think this was in Florida, where there was a trans woman that scared a high school girl because of a locker room situation, and the trans woman didn't have full surgery and traumatized the young girl. So it was at a YMCA nonetheless. And the YMCA was like, no, young lady, this is a woman. So, and this just happens to be an appendix that this person has. All right, I'm gonna play.
That's the whole point of feminism. It's like, why can I choose? What are you missing in America to claim that you are oppressed as a woman?
Well, we just had our rights to our own uteruses stripped away.
Well, the right to murder your own baby, though. I mean,
it's not a baby; it's a clump of cells.
I mean, we all are clump of cells right here.
I think everybody's going to agree and disagree.
Yeah, that's a whole.
I don't know if that's another topic.
I did consider myself a feminist. Seeing how this modern wave of feminism has now turned into something very different than equal rights. We all want equal, of course, we want equal rights. We want equality as women, of course.
But how can you have equal rights when you can't define the word woman on the far left?
Alta had a Women's Day recently, and the Women's Day was celebrated by 2 trans women who still had their male parts. I mean, you're pushing women out of womanhood.
Or believe in women empowerment.
It's because we are women empowered.
It's because we believe women empowerment means something different than what you guys believe in.
Very happy to live under this so-called patriarchy.
This word patriarchy, it does not make any sense to me. Women are not oppressed in America.
Patriarchal society doesn't bother me. Like Marilyn Monroe says, as long as I can be all of a woman in it, I am not bothered.
Okay, so before we go there, are women oppressed?
Not anymore.
So what is it that you think, with feminists still believing that women are oppressed, where are we getting this oppression from, and who is oppressing us?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't. I mean, I'm not going to play like I have no idea.
Right.
I don't.
I don't.
You know, especially in America. If we were in different countries, I might say different, but in America, no, I don't. You know, now I will say in many instances, when it comes to, I do have some consternation about men making determinations about women's bodies. I do. I do have a problem with that. But again, you can't have everything. But
Okay. Well,
but,
let's talk about that, because they brought up abortion,
mm-hmm.
and I would assume that that's maybe what you're talking about as far as with men having the ability to vote about Roe versus Wade. Like, explain that to me.
Yes. I think, and again, this is ridiculous. This is la la land. This is, utopia. And that women would be able to make decisions about women's bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not reality. I understand that.
You think women should only be able to vote on women's bodies?
As it relates to reproduction, I do.
Why?
Because I'm a woman, and again, a man has no, in my opinion, my humble opinion, that a man does not understand the intricacies of a woman's body as it relates to reproduction, especially when it comes to the extremities. I mean, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I believe in life. There are some instances that is not beneficial to give life. In some instances, a man believes that some legislators believe that regardless of the circumstances, that you should give life even at the expense of your own death. And the reason why I have a problem with that's one of the reasons that my grandmother is not here.
Mm-hmm.
She died in childbirth because that was not available to her. She died in childbirth with my mother's brother because that was not something that was available. And it was told to her to have another child, she would die.
So she was told that, but still had opted for another child?
She got pregnant. There was not birth control available. Okay. Those things were not available.
Okay.
So again, I mean, it's my personal opinion, but that's utopia. I don't think so. Yeah, my uncle, my mom's brother.
So if men can't vote about women's bodies, so should doctors be able to work on women's bodies as a man?
See there, okay, now you got me. Yeah, they should.
So, it's like, well, where is, and if we're working, if we're going to be equal.
You're right.
You see, that's that feminism criticism.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
That's true. That's true.
Equality.
That's true.
Say nothing about men and what they vote on as far as with women. A vote is a vote. They have to say.
You're right. See, my mind can be changed. Again,
so I'm just
it's convoluted. I mean, it's difficult. It really is difficult. But I think back to the original issue, I think it is morphed into versus equal rights, opportunity, voting, education. It is morphed into control. Don't tell me nothing. I do what I want to do. I don't care about the consequences. Right. And there should be no consequences. So
no,
you got a point. I'm quiet.
Okay, I'm just saying. Now, if we're going to play the equal game, then it has to go all around. And again, that's another thing that I'm seeing with the idea of feminism. It's not about being equal. It's about you really doing what I want you to do as far as to placate to my feelings.
I will agree.
All right.
I will agree. So,
all right, let's go. What else do these lovely ladies got to say?
Feminist movement is inherently racist.
The feminist movement does not benefit POC.
Okay, so the question is, the feminist movement is inherently racist.
Okay. In shape or form, it especially does not benefit Black women. And the darker your skin is, the more you are used. I call us Black women as the bullets for the feminist movement.
If we're talking historically, if we're talking how feminist movements started, it was an exclusionary movement.
Absolutely.
If we go back to the suffragettes or even further, Black women were not allowed to join in that effort because they really weren't fighting for Black women.
Until we were used as bullets.
Right.
If we're not being used, we can't be part of the movement.
They did use Black women. They used Black women's efforts because most of the most achievements that feminism, you're right, like most of the achievements of feminism have been done by Black women, and white women have stepped in and taken the credit. For like people who do identify as feminists, especially those of us who are white. I think the most important thing for us to do is to sit down, shut up, and listen to Black women.
I see, again, have a very powerful Black mother, a very feminist Black mother, and I would never forget this as she's battling cancer, and I'm holding her hand in bed, and she's married to my dad, who's a very passive man. He's a professor, but very passive, and took the front. She waited for my dad to leave the room and said, maybe you can find a man to take care of you. And this is I'm sorry. My mom is she's like this thing that's bigger than life. She's so big, like untouchable, like powerful, and no one could tell her. And just to see her weak, and her only regret now is that she never got to rest, and she never met a man to take care of her. Even though my dad is incredible in his own way, but she never experienced what it feels like to be a woman. And I refuse to. I would rather die alone than experience a marriage like that.
Feminist.
So what are your thoughts about what she just stated? That her mother, I guess her mother passed away while she was sick. She told her daughter, I hope that you have a man to take care of you. And even though her mom was married and was a alt-right feminist, she didn't experience womanhood, even while married. I thought that was interesting. What are your thoughts?
I understand that. I mean, I think had I not met Mr. Randolph, it probably would have been me that way. I will go back to when we talked about in the 90s, many of us, particularly who came from inner city or whatever, we were told to go to school and to make a way for ourselves because we could not, there was nobody going to come to rescue us, to take care of us. We were told that. So that's what we bought into, and that's what we pursued. Not realizing the burden that would ultimately take. But I think it's a part of what we were taught to do. But I think, and again, not knowing her situation, I would venture to guess her mother probably didn't anticipate that she would feel that way, because when you are younger, you think that you have all this fight in you, and you don't think that you need anybody to take care of you. You don't, until you realize that I don't want to do this shit by myself. I don't want to do all this by myself.
Yeah.
So I identify with that a lot. I have a lot of friends, I think, who identify with that.
Yeah. What does womanhood mean to you?
Womanhood means, for me, nurturing. It means teaching. It means, making a home. It means being a servant to my family. It means leading my family from a feminine perspective, a nurturing, a motherly, mother nature perspective. It also means strength, but it means strength in a different way to me now than it did then. It means that if need be, I can step in and fill the gaps where my husband may need me to fill them, but it doesn't mean that I have to take over. It means that I am a support to the husband. It doesn't mean that I am the leader of the family, which unfortunately many women have been leaders of their families.
Can a woman truly be feminine and not have a husband?
It's hard.
I just thought of that question, and I don't think that has ever been asked, and I've never heard that. And I'm like now thinking about it with the idea of what the young lady was saying is that, you know, her mother never rest, and she was always working and wanting her daughter to, you know, have a man to take care of her, so she's able to rest. And then the Black woman saying that her name is Nike. She was a lawyer and all this, but now she just wants to be a housewife because she's just tired of always doing things and working and putting a load on her shoulder, which she's like, this is not what being a woman is supposed to be about. And I think with the idea of feminism and where it's rolled into, it's creating women to become men and celebrating that. And if we're not having a husband, if we're not, you know, being able to rest, are you truly feminine? And I'm going to go out there that I do not think a woman can truly enjoy herself as her ultimate feminine role without a husband.
I would say it's definitely hard and it requires effort. But again, if you are a single and if you are a single parent, you never have time to rest.
You can't.
You never. So yeah, you can pamper yourself and you get your nails done, but that still doesn't mean you're resting.
No. If our idea of men and what they bring is the strength and the protection and the provision, and I don't have that, then I am having to be protected. I am having to make sure everything, you know, provision. I am essence, and I have to, because those are more dominant roles and these are things that has to be done, I have to put my womanhood to the side and take on a male role.
Well, like I said, you know, I think you may have been on the show with me and Danielle at that time when she told me what I showed her growing up, because I was in charge of stuff. And I took that dominating persona home with raising her, and a lot of times even in relationships, because that was what I was thrust into. So you can't.
Yeah.
And especially if you are not cognizant of it, even in a relationship, you forget, you don't know how to turn it off.
Right.
And that can be, you know, there's no room. Well, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, there's no room for two men in it.
Okay. We'll go there. And I see a couple of comments. Maya Moon, I see you. I'm going to drop the link because I would love for some more women that maybe not think the way that I do or you do, or have some added something to add. I would love for them to come up, because I think this is an important discussion, because we demonize feminism, but without knowing the waves. How did it turn wrong? And, you know, is there something about feminism that we can turn into something to be positive, if any? And it might not, but let's see.
Well, somebody traditional at heart said adulting is not masculine or feminine. I disagree with that to a degree, because it depends on your life circumstances. Again, if you are a single woman or a single mother going into a male dominated world, which this is pretty much is, you must turn on your masculine energy to be competitive in that world.
Yeah. And what is adulting? I mean, the idea of being adult, that's your body goes through biological to become an adult. Adulting looks different for people. Your choices that you make in life is going to be the consequence of what you have to adult to.
Yeah.
So if I got married at 25 and I've been a housewife for 20 years, my adulting is going to be different from you having 3 kids at 25 with no husband, and now you're 45 adulting. Those are 2 different adulting.
Yeah.
So it's, what kind of adulting do you want to do? Do you want to do something that's going to require you to be more masculine and in a male role, or do you want to adult in more of a feminine role? And I would say that if you want to adult in a feminine position, then you have to have a husband.
I'm adulting now at 55 in a much, 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 much different way than I adulted at 25 and 35 as a single mother.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's everyone has an adult, but how are you adulting? And I think the ways that women have been trying to adult, we think that it's normal, but I think we're doing it on a survival mode. Our adult is we're doing things to survive. But what does thriving look like? And I would say that we are getting it wrong. That I'm sticking to it.
I would agree.
All right, now let's go ahead on with this other ladies got to say.
Don't appreciate all that men do for society.
And again, that's feminists don't appreciate all that men do for society.
I mean, I've got a lot to say about this. Feminists just demonize men. They hate men. All men are trash. They say they hate men while simultaneously trying to become men. They hate them for having power and the patriarchy, so they're trying to overtake it. But a lot of women will talk about rape culture. But guess what? Guess who's going to protect you from bad people? A man. Women are nurturers. We need men.
It's as simple as that. It's a God-given right for men to exist the way they were assigned to exist. We need men. It's very simple. We need men to procreate. We need men to provide. We need men to produce. We need men to go to war and die. We need men. It's so bad now that they're so scared of us. They're terrified all the time. I go on dates with men and they're like, am I allowed to open the door? Can I not open the door? Can I touch it? Can I pull the chair out? What can I do? And they're shaking, they're sweating. And you're just like, be yourself. It's okay. They're so afraid of doing anything wrong. So much so they're now the most lonely demographic in the world, right? Like they straight white men, I heard, are now the most lonely because they just creating incels, They don't want to leave their apartment or their house because they're so afraid of women.
The only men that feminists like are men dressing as women and dominating their sports and just really reversing what the other waves of feminism fought to do. Have fun with men beating you in your sports, women, because guess what? You're not going to beat them. Have fun.
I want to talk about this concept.
Okay. Any thoughts before I finish? We're about to get the feminist perspective, but anything?
She's absolutely 100. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Why do you think it's so hard for women to say they need men?
Because we don't want to be weak. Because we're so strong.
We are so strong, and weak is I don't need a man, but honestly, I really do, but I don't want to stay and I want to live my life of not having or not needing a man. Right? That is the hardest, and I see it's like it's a barrier. If women could admit that they need men, that would change a lot of the game up.
It would. Just looking out of the window right now, I don't see no women paving no damn roads.
So I'm gonna play a clip of Jordan Peterson. I adore that man. I think he's probably one of the most profound scholars that we have currently. But he speaks on that in the pay equality, of course. But if women could honestly admit that they need men, we would live a much easier life. Why is it that we want to live in a hard, rugged? Why do we want that? That's what I don't understand. Why does strong equate to I gotta bust my butt to make ends meet and I gotta work? Why can't I be strong in allowing what God intended to be? How is that not, let me tell you this. My strength that I see myself is of not saying what I want to say. It takes strength for me to shut up. It takes a lot of strength. A lot of times I want to say something, I'll be like, Gordon, shut it up. Zip. That is strength, being able to control yourself, discipline. For me, that is strength. and allowing someone and having faith for someone to provide for you and not, stepping on folks. So that strength, especially with women, when we know that we always right and you can't tell me nothing. The
Well, the
strength
fact
is,
is we want control, and we want to be able to say we don't want to. If we are the masters of our own destiny, we can say we can't. We say, well, I made this happen, or I made. So we don't want to take that chance on someone not being what we want them to be. So we just put it on our own shoulders, so we don't have to depend on anybody else.
do you think we see that it's not working?
No,
We don't even know.
people. A lot of times you don't know it's not working until you, hey Kevin, until you in your 30s and you're like, damn, this crap is hard.
Right.
I don't want to do this no more.
Yeah. I do. I think that with women, we have to define what is a strong woman, because I think it's a difference. I think a strong woman and a strong man are different. I do not think a strong man equates to him being overly emotional and not thinking. I do not think that's a strong man. But I do think a strong woman is her understanding her emotions and being able to control it, being able to understand what leadership is and being a co-pilot instead of being a pilot, understanding that I can't do it all by myself. There's strength in transparency, and there's strength in honesty. And I just don't think we're being honest with each other, with ourselves.
And I think it's another thing. A strength is being able to say, I can't do it by myself. I don't want to do it by myself. And it's not important. I don't need to be right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see what the feminists have to say about this. And it's feminists don't appreciate all that men do for society. We don't appreciate it.
Of protection. We're talking about good men who are protectors. Who are they protecting us from? Bad men. Bad men, exactly.
Yeah. Or bad women, bad anybody.
I could drive a car and
it was a rhetorical. I guess.
No,
I understand the point you were trying to make. That's why I said what you wanted me to say.
But I'm going to finish. So then who benefits from men's bad behavior? Good men as well, right? They get to be positioned as the good guys.
Good apples.
They're the good apples. And that is predicated on the bad behavior of men. No, they benefit from being a good person and protecting women. Who cares? We should not be praising people based off comparing them to bad people.
But I don't benefit from being a good girl. I don't get
you're a good feminist, right? I'm sure people love what you have to say as a feminist. Other feminists agree with it and are like, yes, go girl boss. They do.
There are good people on earth and bad people on earth. We're always going to have that. That would never change. It's in every animal kingdom. So we need the good man to protect us from the bad man.
Yeah, I appreciate men that, I love a man that knows his place. Build the house. Yeah, repair that. Because I'm a goddess. Like, if you need to hold your weight in the relationship. Like, I appreciate men. I love men. Like, just like you said, you have a husband, you want to cook for your husband, you make sure that he's good. Men have roles in society as well.
Right, that feminism.
Let me pause that, because she said she likes when a man knows his role. And she likes it when a man does this and that for her. But you notice she's never said in this entire thing about what is her role. She wants a man. I like when my man provides for me and stuff. I bet you do.
I'm a goddess.
I bet you do love it when a man take care of you, girl. But what is your role? Again, the ideas, and this is what it's frustrating, because you still want men to be in their position, in their role. You don't want men to change what they've been doing. Yet I
don't even think she realized I don't even think she realized the magnitude of what she was saying.
I don't think so either, because that's the mentality, and that's why it's just so easy. Yeah, I want my man to take care of me. Yeah, I want him to do. Yeah, I love it. I'm a goddess. Worship me, baby. Well, what are you doing? What is your role?
She got her hair and lashes.
I wish somebody would have asked her that night. I wish, well, ma'am, okay, you want your man in your role and his role, but you don't want to be in yours. And that goes again, the second wave of feminism is trying to erase traditional roles. Well, madam, you're a feminist, so that means that man role don't exist no more. So you liking it, erase that. Because you want to get rid of
you go build it, and you go build that house.
Go build that house, lady.
Pave that road. Build that bridge.
We equal, right? She's a feminist. So no, ma'am, you go build that house. This is where it gets convoluted in the contradiction roles, because they want men to be in their gender roles, but feminism was start on creating or breaking up the gender roles. So they wanted to break it up with the women, but continue it with the men.
That I was raised with always tend to overshadow my relationship, because in my head, I know best, right? Like, I know what's right. I know, because I saw it growing up. I saw it modeled to me growing up. Like, a woman knows everything. We're so powerful.
But the
We're
idea
so strong.
that men are supposed to be the head of the household, do you understand that that is killing men?
That's killing men.
It is killing men.
Well, let them die, because they need to go back to working.
The pressure of it, you mean, right? The pressure
of it is destroying their mental health. That's why men are 6 times more likely to commit suicide than women are, especially men in committed relationships. Men in their 40s that are married with families are the highest risk for suicide.
But it's killing men because we have generations and generations of boys who were not raised to be men and rise to that occasion.
It's killing men because we are not in a position capitalistically where we can have men be the one single head of the household, the bread earner, the decision maker. We are no longer in the 1950s. Our economy is not able to handle that kind of nuclear.
I'm going to pause that, because she said the number one reason why that men are committing, they're unaliving themselves is because of the pressure that society is putting on them to be the head of the household. But, that's not factual. There has been no stat that I saw that said the reason why men would unalive themselves is because of their role of being head of the household. I've never heard not a one man that ever said that they feel pressure on necessarily being the head of the household. They actually want to be the head of the household. They actually want to lead their families. Having a mental health disorder such as depression or bipolar disorder, and these are the reasons that are contributing to the male unaliving rate. Having a medical condition such as chronic pain or terminal illness that increases the risk of depression, alcohol and drug misuse or abuse. Having these thoughts and access to means of unaliving, such as firearms and medications. So, the contributing facts is not being the head of household. That lady just up and lied.
But it sounded really good, though.
It sounded good.
It
sounded
really
great.
Good. Mm-hmm.
And this is how people trick you in trying to sound smart and real life dumb. Sound good, but it's not the truth. And there's not been anything that specifically said at all that men are not even wanting to be the household. I think it's completely different.
I think, and again, I'm older and my husband's 55, but my husband has said often that when his wife, i.e. me, makes the home comfortable, abiding, and his wife is, doing those things, domesticated or whatsoever, and not just domesticated, but how I treat him, it makes him want to go out and do more. So it's not an issue. Most men thrive on doing just that.
I agree.
Because most men ain't trying. And sometimes a man who's about you got to pull him from doing his stuff because that's what he is made to do. In his mind, many of them feel if I'm not working, I'm not doing what I need to be doing for my family. So a lot of times the woman needs to say, has to say, babe, slow down, take a breath, because that's what men are made to do. hunt, and gather.
Right. I agree.
Since caveman days.
Since the caveman days. Right. Look at here.
Clear family with the man being the head of the household, the stay-at-home moms and the 2.5 children.
When you are in a long-term marriage or relationship with a partner of anyone, yes, you're going to have disagreements, but you also have to understand that each person in that partnership does have roles, because that is how a healthy family functions.
Feminism.
What do you think about gender roles?
I love them.
Why?
Because I love the fact that my husband washes my car, puts my gas in my car. But here's the thing. When we think about gender roles, I think people say, okay, you do this and you do that, and there's no intermingling.
They take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I primarily wash the dishes and I primarily do the laundry. Does that mean my husband doesn't do any of those things? Absolutely not.
Right.
But it means that I primarily do certain things. Same way with my daughter and my son-in-law. Yeah, there's certain things that she primarily does and he primarily does. But does that mean that they don't cross over? No, because they have a household. That's what a household is.
Yeah. You know, I said that marriage is a business. And I say that because not only do you have to contractually sign into a marriage by law, but if you look at it and not have, you know, it's more than that. It's a connection. It's being one. But the business aspect of it is understanding that there's leaders, there's subordinates, there's particular roles that you need to do and I need you to be great at in order for the house to run correctly. I think that houses has some sort of structure like a business. When you're dating someone, you know, you're looking at their resume. You're saying, would you be a good candidate to marry? So me thinking of it like that, I think it simplifies a lot of things. I think it creates an order, and without order, there's chaos. And I just think a lot of the chaos is because we've lost order because no one wants to be in a particular role. They want to be living outside the box, but then inherently still going back into a role. You see, you know, LGBT couples, they're same sex, but usually one is more dominant, one is more feminine. That's to the men and to the women. It's just because what works is always going to work. And the more that you deviate from it, you still go back to what always works.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree. I was going to say something, but I forgot. If it comes back to me, I'll
pop it up. Okay. So let's look. And then this is about to end. I just took a couple clips from it, but this is feminism that doesn't include trans women isn't feminism.
That doesn't include trans women isn't feminism.
You surprised to see me here? No. Okay, good.
You know, it's really important to include trans women and trans people and gender nonconforming people, which, by the way, I am gender queer myself. I don't actually identify as a woman. It's really important that those of us who do have privileges like speak up for trans women in the community, especially because they're the most at risk for hate crimes.
I also want to just level set and say that we are having this conversation without trans women. Right? We are sitting here today having
a
conversation without
for sure?
women.
I identify as trans.
Hold on. She identifies as non-binary, and she's on a feminist panel.
My pronouns.
So maybe she doesn't belong here either. They don't belong here.
Plot twist: I am biologically female, and I'll never deny that. I lived as a woman for most of my life. I am 31. I only came out a couple of years ago. I spent a lot of time, you know, the majority of my life in these spaces with women. That does give me a kind of unique perspective now being a trans non-binary person.
I guess my main issue with trans women.
Okay, let me pause because I mean, you know, I'm not hip to all the new lingo. I don't know all the pronouns. I don't know none of that. But that little lady that I saw, now she's trans. So,
but she says she's a biological female,
which we all know, it's clear to see.
So she's a trans what?
Is she turning into? Did she say? Let me go back because I was a little lost. Because I don't know. Alexa, Lord, come on, baby. 31, child.
Yeah, hold on. She identifies as non-binary, and she's on a feminist panel.
My pronouns.
So maybe she doesn't belong here either. They don't belong here.
Plot twist, I am biologically female and I'll never deny that. I lived as a woman for most of my life.
She lived as a woman for most of her life.
So she's saying
she's a woman now.
So she's saying that she's a trans male?
Okay, she's saying she lived as a woman most of her life. Is she not living as a woman as we speak of right now? Let's see.
I am 31. I only came out a couple of years ago. I spent a lot of time, the majority of my life in these spaces with women. That does give me a kind of unique perspective now.
A unique perspective of being, you have the perspective because you are. Like, you can talk about being a woman because you are. Your perspective of being a woman is not a perspective. It is a reality because you are.
Okay, so traditional at heart says she's non-binary now. So does that mean, does non-binary mean that you're not one or the other, that you can be both, like a male and female at the same time? I'm Confucius.
Okay, so binary is the meaning of binary. Let's get it. Consisting of two things or parts relating to, being, or belonging to a number system having two as its base. So I guess being binary is that she feels like a man and a woman.
Jesus, come on back. Come on back, Lord. It's over.
Okay. What is the idea of gender binary? The gender binary describes the inaccurate concept that gender is categorized into two distinct forms, man and woman. Many gender identities exist either between or outside of this binary, such as being gender fluid, gender queer, non-binary, or agender. That's going to be another show because I don't. The idea that I can feel like a man. How do I know I feel like a man when I've never been one? I can say I like how men look and I want to look like a man. I want to lead like a man. But I don't necessarily know what it feels like to be a man because I've never been that. I can't tell you how it feels to be white because I've never been that, but I can look and I can say, oh, well, maybe I want to look more European so I can change up my look and, get a thinner nose. I could do that, but I don't know what it feels like to be anything I've never been. So I've always been confused, and let me tell you, I'm open to talking to anybody. But how can you feel like you've been something you've never been? TJ, you there? You just shaking your head? Okay.
I got nothing. Listen, I don't understand it. So I can't, I'm not going to, I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
There's the TikToker, Dylan Moller. Lord, I'm going to mess up his name. But he was, or she was doing, days of becoming a woman. And every day was, I feel like a woman because I cried at a movie. I feel like I'm a woman because I just got super emotional and I was so indecisive. And I'm like, no, that's a caricature of being a woman. Like, we get emotional, but I'm just not so indecisive that I start bawling and crying. So you're a caricature of what you think is a woman. But I am more than my emotions. And what makes me a woman is a whole lot more than being indecisive, even though I am. And the thing is, I want to talk more about that, but they have changed so much in YouTube and the new regulations in YouTube that they don't even want you to discuss it if it's something that it might be deemed negative.
Well, they just took my TikTok video down because I was frustrated about the fact that the trans community took exception to Aretha Franklin's song "Natural Woman."
Yeah. Well, I was researching that, and I think that was some organization that just got made. Literally, I think was saying that, but I don't think it was the trans community. I think it was some organization that was saying it. So I don't know if that organization was more satire, but it was on a website.
It's just too much all the way around.
But it's a lot. But it's even, and I have seen some of my videos that I've did months ago now being demonetized or restrictions on it. And I'm like, I did this show 4 months ago, and now I'm seeing you're doing a restriction. And it's because I talked about something that could be deemed not pro-trans, not pro this. And I just think, again, with this fourth wave of feminism and being more inclusive, you not only shutting up people with different thoughts and ideas, but now as a woman, I can't even debate to you about how I feel offended when someone tries to play woman. And I'm
I like I said, the inclusion is going to be at the exclusion of biological women. And when biological women are not able to get jobs, when biological women are passed over for certain things in favor of trans women, that is only when it will be an issue for us, because we can't see the forest for the trees at this point.
Yeah, I hear you. Look, and you're right. I gotta keep it light because of not trying to offend anyone. However, what if I get offended?
Like I said, I don't have a problem
I can't get offended being offended.
I don't have a problem with your rights, but see, your rights are encroaching upon mine. So what do?
You can't do
Be
nothing.
quiet. Be quiet.
Be quiet, or you will get canceled. All right, let's finish up this lady.
Being a trans non-binary person.
I guess my main issue with trans women.
And she never said what she was trans of and transitioning to. So I'm going to assume a man, because she can't trans to be.
But she said she's a female, and she'll never deny that. That's what she said at the beginning. So maybe the trans part is like, maybe on the day that she feels like a man, she'll dress like one. I don't see. It's just too much. I don't know.
Let me tell you, the devil is, honey, the artist, the creator of confusion. That's all I know. All right, let's see. I think we're about ending this.
Being seen as women and not being seen as trans women is they're changing the definition of women and expecting everybody to go along with that. And that affects me. Yes, they are. And that affects me directly. You say trans women are women. Trans women are trans women. It's a very different experience.
Trans women are women.
We're just going to agree to disagree with that.
Your face. Your computer's still acting up. Someone is saying in the chat, they like, it's just not clear. It's not clear, just kind of pixelated. But yeah, trans women are women. And I think this is where the fourth wave of feminism is going to go. You trying to figure out your computer?
No, I'm gonna see if I can call in my phone and that makes a difference.
Oh, okay. I want to pull up something too, because I think this is what is a big part of what feminism is wanting to do and where they are getting it wrong completely. You still there, TJ? Oh, I see you coming in again. Let me give you some. Let's see. Okay.
Is that better?
It's a little better. You know, kind of still freezing up a little bit.
Maybe it's my internet.
Could be. All right. Let me play this.
Went out of his way to make the workforce within that company 50-50 as much as he could in terms of men and women being represented. So we're talking about engineers, we're talking about tradespeople, we're talking about in workshops, we're talking at the managerial level.
If you hire 50% women engineers and 50% male engineers, then the women engineers are less qualified because the pool of engineers is lower among women. So you can't hire 50% women engineers without producing a decrement in the quality of the engineers. Does
that make sense? TJ?
It does, because he's saying that the number of women of engineers total is predominantly male. So if you have 50% female, you are, the pool of qualified or the upper echelon of engineers is there's a deficit there. I get that.
Right. So the core issue that I see of feminism, besides the idea that now we have the inclusion part, which is now we're focused on trans rights and feminism, but it's the idea that not only do we want, or they want, gender equality, but they want gender equity. So gender equality means equal outcomes for women, men, and gender diverse people. Gender equity is the process to achieve gender equality. Gender equity recognizes that women and gender diverse people are not in the same starting position as men. This is because of historical and social disadvantages. Treating women, gender diverse people, and men equally might not actually be fair. In fact, it can create more disadvantages. Gender equity measures are often needed to level the playing field. So you see the picture of equality. It's okay, we are all now on the equal playing field. However, one is taller and can get the apple, one can't, and one is smaller. So not only do I want equality, but I want equal equity. So therefore, that I want everyone to be able to reach the apple. And so I'm going to have to put more building blocks on the short person so they can be equal as the tall person. So with feminism, it is not only do they want equality, but they want equal outcomes.
Whether they're qualified or not.
Correct.
That's a no bueno.
That is absolutely. So it's, I want to be equal, but not only do I want to be equal, the outcomes that you are getting, I want that equal too. So I want to explain that. So I'm going to play this again because now the Jordan Peterson.
This selection pool is too.
Went out of his way to make the workforce within that company 50-50 as much as he could in terms of men and women being represented. So we're talking about engineers, we're talking about tradespeople, we're talking about in workshops, we're talking at the managerial level.
If you hire 50% women engineers and 50% male engineers, then the women engineers are less qualified because the pool of engineers is lower among women. So you can't hire 50% women engineers without producing a decrement in the quality of the engineers, because this selection pool is too small. You can't do that on a large scale. You might be able to do that in one company. But look, you think about it mathematically. If there's 10 times as many male engineers as there are female engineers, and you insist upon hiring 50-50, then obviously the degree to which the female engineers are proficient cannot be the same as the degree to which the male engineers are proficient. It's mathematically impossible.
So you're saying don't even try?
No, I'm saying something much more specific than that.
What is he saying more specific?
So I think more specifically with trying to have not only equality but equal outcomes is that now if you want to do that with engineering, so we're going to mess up the engineering pool. If you want to do that with police officers, like you said, even in the military, because they're wanting to get more women in higher positions, so they're having to change the qualifications for women to be equal as men. So how it was, you had to go through training. Well, now the training is going to be less intensive because the women are not able to train as hard as the men are. Meaning, as a man, I can do 300 push-ups, but women, I can do 150. So now I got to lower my qualifications to meet that 150 standard, which in essence makes the qualifications of being a police officer, being in the military, lower end. And for the men, now you don't even have to work up a standard as men were supposed to, because now you can work at the standard as men as women. So you wanting equal outcomes means the qualifications now has to be lowered.
And I think it's regrettable because, again, it kind of goes back to the idea of affirmative action, whereas they stated in order to have the number of minorities apply to these schools, they had to lower the standards as opposed to keeping the standards as they were and having the person reach to attain those standards. Now we're lowering them.
Right. And we all know, even with affirmative action, who benefited from that wasn't, I think, what it was intended to be for Black people. It was majority of white women that benefited from affirmative action. And now who's going to benefit from affirmative action is going to be the trans community. So I don't see where you can equally say, I want equality, but then you want equal outcomes. Then they talked about, I don't know if you're probably frozen, but the idea of equal pay and the pay gap. And is there a pay gap? Yes, it is. But the idea of why is it? And it is because when you have equality and now women can work in the workplace, women are majority picking fields. That is not what Jordan Peterson always talks about, bricklayers, but it's nothing intensive as far as hard labor. Women are picking more secretarial jobs, teaching jobs, nursing, more in the humanities field. So equality is also where it's gender role in it, because women are not one to do the intensive labor that men have always done. So even with equality, that gender role still comes in, and we still are going to places and doing things that has always been women friendly. I'm able to get off. I have my summers off as a teacher. That's where we always strive to.
This is true. I think where it comes to equal pay for me, I believe equal pay for the same job.
Yeah.
If you're doing the same job at the same level of proficiency, because one thing that I will say, and again, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, is related to certain military specialties as well as even in the federal government. The job that I did, there's a pay scale, and it doesn't differentiate between men and women. There's a pay scale for certain GS positions. And if you're in that position doing that job, you get the same pay. The only thing that varies is if you have a longer time in service for that job. But if you're doing the same job at the same rate of proficiency, yeah, I think you should be paid equally.
Yeah, I agree. But now I haven't seen any data that specifically says that jobs are looking at candidates and saying that's a woman. Oh, I'm going to lower her pay. I've not seen that. I think with the pay gap and what women are seeing is they're saying, hey, the man is making $1 and I'm making 80 cents and Black women are making 70 cents. They're seeing that as the pay gap, but not looking specifically on why that is. And why that is because of the type of jobs. And someone even mentioned because of working more hours. More men are working more hours than women. And we tend to go to jobs that would allow us to be off because of pregnancies, because, we are usually the primary care of our children. That's just what it is.
And when we're asking for things, I think we should be mindful of what we're asking for, because you're absolutely right. Because we are off more, even if you are a 2-parent household and you're both working, the mother is going to be off work more than the father, because again, generally the mother is the primary caregiver. So I think that should definitely be something that we have to be realistic about.
Yeah.
We should be realistic about, because we are off work more. If we're mothers, for sure.
Yeah, we are. I'm gonna because I see there were some people that maybe are disagreeing with me. I want you to come up. I am going to drop the link. Let me see. But before I drop the link, I wanted to talk to you real quick because you are going kind of viral on TikTok. Welcome to the club. But you had some choice words to say about women. And again, this goes into feminism and how we are dressing and how we are looking. We are now get rid of traditional and what we were and what we look like. Now it's we can do and look however in the world. And we are showing that. But you had something to say. Let me play what you had to say, and I wanted to get yours because you got some women upset.
It's funny how when I posted a clip the other day about my observation of a young woman who had blue hair and lashes that looked like fans, and asked about, if someone were to try to hold this woman accountable, what would that look like? And the reason why I posed that question, because in many spaces, people have suggested that it is incumbent upon older women like myself to hold younger women accountable. So that's why I asked the question. But what I found interesting is that several women posted, how do you hold someone accountable for how they express their individuality? You can't. But please understand there's a price to pay for that. I am a 20+ year retired HR professional. And if somebody walks in an interview with blue hair, lashes, understand before they even open their mouth, the decision is probably made. Is it right? No. Does it happen? Yes. So another thing somebody wrote, none of your business. Compliment the good. What good was in that? Nothing. The problem is anything goes. Somebody asked, okay, what was wrong with blue hair? A lot. The problem is that my 55 years has shown me, and being in the military for 20 years, being in the federal government, also being in the corporate America, there are no standards anymore. Anything goes. And see, I'm a Black woman, so yeah, I judge Black women because I am one. I judge Black women because I grew up from nothing and worked my way through, but understanding how I present myself matters. It matters for people who don't know what's going on in the head, because they make assumptions. How my intellect is, they make assumptions. Yeah. Okay. So also someone stated, let me go ahead and find it. Someone wrote that I came off as if I was diminishing this Black woman because I don't like her eyelashes. Anything in excess is not good. Anything. I don't have a problem with lashes. Everything in moderation. We live in the real world. The problem is many people think that they can live their lives like entertainers do with clown makeup, clown hair and not expect consequences of that, whether it be professional consequences, whether it be personal consequences. Certain people treat you better when you dress nicely and you look nicely. You don't have to like it to understand that that is a fact. That's a fact. So you may not like what I said, and that's your right, but it doesn't make it any less true.
Well, you popped out. Let me take you down, TJ. There you go.
That's a grow. That's a grow
You
your real moment.
You had some words.
Yeah, that's a grow your real moment.
So what made you make that video?
Well, because, you know, and I have my little part-time job since I've quit.
Mm-hmm.
I was in my car during my lunch break one day, and I noticed this young woman walking out that she had this blue wig, lashes like this, nails, looking like a tramp. And I'm like, what does she think she doing? So it came to my mind that some, you know, men, people in this spaces, you know, all women need to, you know, hold these young women accountable. And I'm like, how would they pretend I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I would have said something to her, that would have been a fight. So that's what I put in the comment. You know, that's what the video I made. And then that's when I got all these comments, mind your business. She's expressing herself. I'm like, okay. So that prompted my rebuttal.
Well, I agreed. Does it amaze you when you get people that tell you to mind your business? What is it to you? Just because you're literally saying something that is not false.
I went off camera because I see that I'm freezing up. So can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. It does surprise me and it saddens me. But again, well, actually, no, it doesn't surprise me. It saddens me because, again, anything goes.
Right.
And there are no standards. And again, if you have standards, then you're the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think the travesty of it is that a lot of young people, and I say young people, there's some old fools too, but they put things, they're out and about, and now people like me have cameras. Everybody has cameras, and they don't think about it may not be a big deal to you now, but someday it will.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I come from a position, I'm not saying I never did anything stupid, because I have, but there's no proof. And that's what these people don't get. There's no proof. And again, people look, when you look for a job or whatever, people gonna look to see where they can find you, and you represent their organization.
Hold on,
I can hear you.
I'm on mute. I totally agree. I think, and I'm gonna pull up something real quick, and I did drop the link if anybody wants to come up, but I just thought about this, and with your video, so there was Kendra G. Boy, I tell you, her shows are interesting. But there was a woman that came up looking for love, but how it was, or how she presented herself, I was like, what is going on? But again, the idea is that now we can do whatever we want to do. We can look however we want to look. You better take me as I am. Not only am I equal to you, I'm going to make sure that I get this equity as well, so I can be just right next to you or above. And I'm like, with feminism, not only did it take away or try to strip us of us being in our essence of a woman, but now it's stripping us from looking dignified.
Absolutely, because there were several women, you know, say, I have blue hair and I'm in this position. I'm like, well, I'm not talking to you.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. And this is why I say that as far as with our looks, when you have a culture that promotes sex revolution and free sex, and I can be a sexual whatever, then you look the part. and you looking like sex, it ain't nothing. I think that is classy about it, but not even that. Look how you're representing yourself. And it just doesn't look right. So I want to play this for you. Let me bring it up. Cause I'm gonna share my screen. I didn't. She's going off. Hold on. Let's see. Chrome tab.
God.
Get my hair done and I can take the bonnet off.
Okay, so I understand the motivation. So the motivation behind this bonnet is I'm looking for a man that's going to pay to get my hair done.
Exactly. No, not like that, Kendra. Come on now. I'm in the house relaxing. Leave me alone, because you sound like Monique.
Well, hold on. You not in the house. This is the thing. You in the house.
All right, do you see that? You sound like Monique. So again, when you try to tell the people, they treat you like Monique, and you get demonized for trying to tell the truth.
She is an old fool. That's what she looked like.
An old fool.
But you're not really in the house. You in front of the world. So if you cool with it, I'm cool with it. But I think sometimes
I ain't gonna put no wig on enough for the whole world.
But girl, this is my show, the world.
Why can't I be me?
Listen, boy. You can do you to the 10,000th degree. I just want to reconfirm that you're not in the house. You on the internet in front of thousands of people. But if you cool, let's go.
All right, yeah, find me a man, please.
What? Okay, let me say something real quick.
Yeah, I want to say something too. And this is for my men. I'm going to say something to men as well, because I see it with my guys. But go ahead. I'll let you go.
So it goes back to what I said. If you have blue hair, lashes, raptor nails, bonnets, there are consequences for that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're professional consequences or personal consequences. And the personal consequences is when you present yourself looking like a clown. Don't be surprised if you get Ringling Brothers calling you to mate. Straight up. Don't be surprised, and don't act like I can't understand, because if you advertise yourself as a clown, then you're going to attract a ringmaster. Take that with you.
Hello. So this is what I want to say, because I see this a lot in YouTube, and I even see some of the guys say this. And so this is what I'm going to say. When you get on camera, even if you're at home, you don't know who's looking at you. And as she's looking for a man, well, you know, with the moo she got on, the bonnet, looks like she ain't, probably smell a little musty. Who's going to want that? Like, you're presenting yourself looking a hot mess.
Old Pookie and Ray Ray, that's who gonna want it.
Even though you're at home, you're still live in front of thousands. As a matter of fact, I would suggest when you get online that you do a little bit better than you would do it just going to Target or Walmart, because this is reaching over the world. But I see guys do the same thing. I get on shows and I see guys that's talking about wanting to get a woman and a wife, and I want this and that. But they don't cam up. Or when they do, you know, they're looking a little scruffy, and, you know, the background is the blondes are messed up. And I'm like, you don't know who's going to see you. So if you're wanting someone and you're on a platform, even if it's not yours, look good.
Well, it goes about, again, going back to what you said, Courtney, it's about dignity. And again, I'm off camera right now because I guess I have my internet is janky, but again, I hate to say it, but it goes back to home training. I'm sorry, it does. Because even though, before I met Mr. Randolph, I always felt like when I step out of the house, I'm representing my mother, I'm representing my grandfather. Now, when I step out of the house or when I go on camera, I'm representing my husband. I'm still representing my mother and my grandfather, and my dad. That's who I'm representing, because I know it's not just about me.
Right.
But I think, unfortunately, people, that's all they're thinking about. Well, they need to accept me. Okay, but who are you? Who are you?
Right. And no, I don't have to accept you. I don't. I don't have to like you. I don't have to talk to you. And if I make an effort in my appearance, why wouldn't I want somebody else to? That's what I just don't understand. Like I said, when we get on these YouTube stuff and people that, if you're looking for someone, this could be your chance opportunity to find someone. Trust me, because you don't know who's seeing this. You got your social media out on there. Someone could slide into the DM. So look the part.
And again,
fresh clothes, wash your face, brush your teeth.
Shout out to my former employer. And again, I loved working there briefly, but it just wasn't a fit for me.
Yeah, you were there for about 2 weeks. Go ahead.
No, I was there a month and a half.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I will say, when I left in my last day, I took a couple of gifts to the people who I enjoyed working with. These ladies said to me that, because I came dressed every day. You need to understand that.
Every day.
Those ladies said to me, Miss TJ, you made me want to step my game up. Thank you for being the example. And that's all I got on that.
That's all you got. All right. I'm going to play her a little bit more. And I think I had someone call in, so I'm going to get to that. But I'm just going to play a little more because she was something else. But again, doing whatever you want to do, there's consequences. And she's doing whatever she wants to do. But structure and order. That's all I can say.
What's your name?
Come on, Kendra, don't play with me.
No, what's your name? Please go in.
My name is Karen Kaya.
Karen Kaya.
I live in Philadelphia. I live in Philadelphia.
You know what? Let me tell you something. I probably would have guessed the city. People always think that I'm from Connecticut. People think Chicago made me a gangster. No, Philadelphia.
Gonna watch him, and I'm gonna be bad.
Okay, all by the same man?
Let's see.
Is that how you say it?
Say it one more time, Karen. Karen, Philadelphia, 59.
She sounds like she smokes cigarettes.
She does.
Birthday July the 8th. I'm a Cancer.
All right, Karen, let's get to it.
Here's my thing. She don't look fresh. I mean, she doesn't look like she smells. And again, for a woman, man, I mean, it's something about when she walk by you and you're like, oh, it smells like a little lavender just walked by me. Oh, that kind of, that could wake up a man. That, okay, baby, smelling like fresh roses. She looked like she smelled like mothballs, Black and Milds, and a pint of Hennessy.
Didn't Forrest Gump say she smelled like cigarettes?
Yes, ain't nothing fresh. And girl, get out of that. Do something with your hair. Put on a little deodorant. Wash underneath the crevices of them breasts. I know that's probably double Z's, but she don't even look fresh. And I'm like, you're wanting a man looking like that? I know it's mothballs all up in that house.
Now, Karen Philadelphia, she's an entrepreneur, 59, Cancer, 3 children. What kind of man you looking for?
My friend used to pay $163.
Oh, darn. Not my premium.
For car insurance. Now look how much he pays.
I'm just looking for somebody that can give me great knowledge in my religion, which is Islam. I mean, you don't have to give me no money, not that much money, and no arguing and no kiki and all that dumb stuff. If you're gonna cheat, ain't no sense in coming being in my face. You feel me?
Ooh, so no cheating. Be honest with you.
Just be honest. That's all.
If he's honest and he got other women, you staying?
Bad enough I'm Muslim and my husband can have 4 wives. I'm just saying, like, I just need a man. Like, I really don't like the poly, I am Muslim. I really don't like that. So I prefer to be with need to be the only woman. Because I'm not used to being poly. I gotta really get into that, which I do read my Quran to help me out,
Wait,
But
wait.
Yes.
Did she's Quran?
Quran.
I'm done.
I don't believe this woman is what is the I believe it.
Because she said
Quran?
Islam.
Ain't it the
She said
Quran?
Islam. She said not Islam, but Islam.
I'm done.
It's the Quran. Quran. I think that's my neighbor's name. I don't
Your
know.
religion says that your husband can have more than one wife.
he can.
How long have you been practicing this religion for?
It's been 12, 13 years.
I don't believe
I've been to Cosby about 5, 6 years.
So, person in your situation, so you were third wife that's asking to be released, and he has to agree. If he doesn't agree, you can't do nothing about it.
I can't even.
Say that you have another Muslim husband.
No, you what? No, they don't got to be a certain way. They don't have to look a certain way. Just not too all like, shit, I'm bad enough. I look like this. Shit.
Oh, well.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Karen. All right. Does he have to make a certain amount of money?
Yeah.
How much he got to make?
Enough for me to buy my son, since he's the youngest, a house, a car, if it's my time to go. I don't want no woman putting my son out. Oh, you got to go. I want to make sure my son all right, go to college. He got to give me enough money for all that. You hear me?
So where's your son's father? Why can't he do that?
He's dead. Okay.
I'm sorry. What happened?
I don't know. It's just like something to do with lungs, and all that.
Real. This can't be real.
I'm about to
Okay,
stop
well,
it.
sorry
Because I mean,
passed on. But let me just ask you this.
What?
So the new man has to buy your son a house?
No, you gotta give me the money. I'll buy the house.
So he has to give you enough money to buy your son a house.
Yeah, he gotta have enough money for all of that. Yeah.
Or that.
For real.
okay. Let me stop the share.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
She must have been playing.
Look, no. Because that's like the idea of how she came on. So many people go out the house looking like they just woke up, haven't taken a bath, and think that's acceptable or presentable. But as you know, back in the day, as far as traditional, I wish they would walk out the house looking at like that. That old saying, you better make sure you got some clean drawers on. You never know what's gonna happen. My mom used to say, I was like, you worry about me having some clean, be clean when you walk out this house. Because you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know who's gonna see you, who's gonna
might have an accident, anything.
You want a woman, but out here looking like who shot John and why?
Lord Jesus.
And then I just saw that you was talking about bondage, and it just made me think of that. I did have somebody here. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling, and let me see who we got today. Oh, I didn't even see it was Uncle Stu. I'm so sorry.
What's up, bro?
I usually have my mouse acting up, so I'm over here on my computer doing a hot mess. What is going on?
Look, do I look good, y'all?
Yes,
I want to make sure.
You always stay bummed up.
Oh, wow.
So we
I came up for one thing, but let me go backwards.
Okay.
As somebody that has practiced the religion and the lifestyle of Islam, that is not a Muslim. Don't let the preaching voice fool you. I have studied the Quran, the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad. I let everybody know in your chat that before we make what's known as salat, which is prayer, you are to wash your face, your hands, your feet, your mouth, before you even hit the prayer rug. This woman ain't practicing none of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I'm saddened that she would be the image of a Muslim woman, and that surely is not the image of a Muslim woman. I'm not even worried about the jalabiyah, but I'm like, no, that's not the image. So I won't even let her represent Islam in that fashion. So nah. My Muslim brothers and sisters back home at that was a bad match. She wouldn't win for that one. But no, I only came up real quick because I felt your conversation was right on point. You know, I'm surprised you didn't touch on a subject that I touched on yesterday, the whole Aretha Franklin thing, you know, with the T community trying to go after her. They tried to say it was satire, but I think they got blown out the water.
Well, you could discuss it. So what did you think about that? Because I didn't. I heard it was satire, but go ahead. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, well, see, I've argued that in the political agenda and the social agenda, that there's definitely a political and social agenda. And the political and the social agenda was to attach themselves with their ideology onto the original Black feminist movement. I too have studied Black feminism going all the way back to the 80s and early 90s. So, you know, I was trying to explain to Barry that back then, Black men supported it not because it was something to go against Black men. It was allowing Black women to finally have a voice and identity, because white feminism did not include Black women. They wasn't even considered women. You know, Black women still had to work for the same white women that had the political and social freedoms that she wasn't having. So we worked together as a team in the 80s and 90s. What you have now, you added one, so I got to go back and do some research. But on this last wave feminism that you articulated, I think, you know, and I really get this from my daughter. The social and political argument, and this is what angers me with today's Black woman and today's Black heterosexual and gay woman. I need everybody to understand that bisexuality, lesbian, can I say those words on YouTube? Okay.
Who knows?
You know, they got these new things now.
Right.
Bisexuality, gay, and lesbian has always been part of African American experience. It's always been there. We know, you know, one of the greatest architects of the civil rights era under Dr. Martin Luther King was a gay man. We know that, you know, one of the most powerful Black writers in the Harlem Renaissance was a gay man. So this whole idea of the first three letters being hostile, no, these was all historical things we know, we've documented, and we've put it up in history. So that's not the issue. The issue is that you have an agenda, and the agenda is to lead a group of people into what I'm going to say alleged pedophilia. Because now what you have is the agenda of people wanting your children to have a certain mentality that the average child doesn't even have. So when they came after Aretha Franklin, the argument was natural woman. And trust me, my phone got blown up when that came out. The argument came where they wanted to get rid of the song Natural Woman, say it was offensive against the transgender community. And saying that this one song initiates violence against the trans community. My argument is, if you study the song, first of all, Aretha Franklin didn't write it. A white woman wrote the song. That's number one. When you understand the meaning of the song, it is the proliferation of a woman that says, I have found love. This man came in and gave me love that made me whole again. You know, it is that love that lifts up all the burdens. It is that love that takes you from your masculinity into your femininity. It's that love that just conquers all kinds of sins. It's that love that lifts us up. And this is what that love is saying. And this woman don't have a problem saying, listen, I was living in this world. I was burdened by this world. I was carrying things on my shoulder. And here you come in and take all of the burdens off my shoulder. Yes, I love you. Yes, I can submit to you. Yes, I can not only submit, but I'm going to do what the Bible tells me to do, is brag and boast about you. And that was what me and TJ would call back in the old school days a real Black woman love. You know, so and so when you come in and you attack Aretha Franklin, when you attack a woman who has, let's just put it down, been there, done that, wore the t-shirt. If anybody had a right to be a bitter Black woman, it was Aretha. And she was not no bitter Black woman. She opened the doors for Black women. She opened the doors for Black men. She was there when all of this stuff was going on. So to even attack her, we're like, nah, that's not going to work. That is not going to happen. So I think with the backlash, and your live stream kind of proves it. And I was saying this to somebody in the background. I said, what this Aretha Franklin issue has done is now open up the windows, because I was listening to lesbians and heterosexual women come together and say, nah, we ain't going for this. So I think as we really begin to educate and to teach, there will be some political and social backlashes that's going to take place. I'm going to say what a lot of people won't say. Number one, my major argument is, if you're conservative minded, stop dealing with these liberal ideologies. Follow what you know has been working. We know husband, wife, family has worked. Period. All the other was conversations. Sometimes you can't change that mind. Some folk has got to just pass away in their ignorance.
Excuse me. It kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation too, Courtney, with respect to Natural Woman, about, and going back to the young lady who talked about her mother in her last days. The fact that, you know, being able to be soft, being able to rest in love, and being able to be that natural woman in the secure arms of that man who allows you to be that.
Right.
And it's so funny that you say that, bro, because I remember during the courting stage of me and Mr. Randolph, I would often send him that song because that's how he made me feel.
Well,
like
that's right.
Just be.
What everybody doesn't understand, and I've always said this on my platform, I said this on TJ platform, I said, how in the world do you go from a military officer to a submissive wife? People don't understand what I'm talking about unless you've been in the military. You can't be, I'm gonna be honest, a woman can't be so sweet and docile and feminine in the military. I don't care if you're in the Marines, the Army, Navy, she's just not gonna lead, not on an officer level. So for even that aspect of all of those things being taken off, and knowing how to no longer have that weight of the world on your shoulder, you know, is the biggest things. So this is why I say to, you know, because this is your female platform. And as I tell any man, you know, when the women talking, shut up, let them talk and hash out their issues. We be the men that develops ourselves and be ready. Be ready. Be the man that you supposed to be, and leave them liberal-minded women alone. You can't teach the unteachable. You can't save the unsaved. Jesus only saved 12 people. If you look at the numbers, once we get into the book of Acts, it was Peter that was able to get the 3,000. So sometimes we can't save the whole group. We can only save the small portion and keep it pushing. There are going to be women that is not going to listen to you. There's going to be women that's not going to listen to TJ. But here's the funny part. You got results. You put in work. And a lot of people don't want to work. What they want is the victim mentality and someone to pacify their victimhood. And so as long as we're living under the victim mentality, and as long as someone can cater to our victimhood and continue to tell us that we oppress and give us every excuse not to put in the self-work that we need, it's going to continue. And when and I'm glad you showed that woman, because TJ said earlier, we got a lot of old fools. I get it now. When the young people sit here and say, we don't want to listen, because you got a lot of old fools. You got people, and TJ, you probably can relate to this. You got too many people living in the Al Bundy mindset.
I used to love some Married with Children now.
That's right.
Yeah.
The good old days.
The good old days.
And
4 touchdowns in one single game.
Exactly. And look at Al Bundy. Look at the whole show. The whole show is almost a reflection of who we are right now. You got men sitting around here talking about what they used to do in high school and teaching these young kids. Never produced anything. Don't have results for their life. You got women doing the same thing. I remember when I was a cheerleader, I was this in my 20s. Girl, you 50 years old. What have you done? What have you produced? What have you done? So, you know, what you have done, you know, is be a woman of results. And you continue to be that woman that keeps producing those results.
Let me ask you something, Uncle Stu, because, you know, I kind of broke down the different waves of feminism and how it started and what it turned into be. Do you think feminism as a whole, or where we are now, that it can be revised to be something that we need, or feminism is no longer needed and we need to get rid of it?
My original thought of feminism, honestly, was more dealing with politics and the fact of governance. So I understood it from that concept. When I studied the holistic of feminism, it was more over politics. Black women in the early 90s, especially going into 2000, I don't see what's oppressing them. There's nothing, there's no man, white or black, that stops you from getting your own business. There's nobody stopping you from getting your education. There's nobody stopping you from doing anything that you want to do. In May, y'all gonna see old fat Uncle Stu doing flips, because my 27-year-old getting ready to get her master's degree.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? She already got it in mathematics, and now she getting ready to get in her master's in business. So as I told her, as I tell my 37-year-old, as I told all my kids, you don't use me as an excuse for your failure. So I don't see anywhere where there's this big struggle of female anything. Why? I don't see it. Now, where is it coming from? It's usually coming from people who is losing their validation for what they used to argue. What do I mean by losing their validation? You sit around here, you're this college professor, all of your 1980s fights is over. But you need to feel validated, so you keep trying to find more and more stuff and try to find fights that doesn't need to be there. Now you're getting the backlash of all of your fights. And what is that backlash? Well, we got a study now on both sides, white and black. The marriage rates now went down. But you still won't stop fighting.
Right.
You got men who, and I'm going to do a deeper dive study, you got men that just quit working. You know, workplace has become dangerous. You know, society has become dangerous. You know, just the fact that a woman can just say something and you can lose your life, your career, everything. So as a black man, I'll tell anybody, I fear a black woman's voice more than I fear a white man.
Brother,
Go ahead,
I think
TJ.
if I can read it, I think, and I want to make sure I understand correctly, Courtney. Didn't you ask, do we think that we can course correct for as feminism. Is that my understanding?
If we are willing to go back to true mental conservatism as we knew it back then. Conservatism back then was husband, husband, wife, and we raised a family. And our family just wasn't brother, sister. We had the whole collection because family was brother, sister, cousins, uncles. We had if you want to call it, the community.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we can if we're willing to do the work to do it.
Yeah.
Well, then that's why I'm going to disagree because I think the genie's too far out of the bottle, and power does not concede itself.
Exactly. I mean, so that's why I say there's going to be a whole lot of people that is going to be deleted. It's going to be self-deleted in their own mess, and we just got to take the minority and move forward.
Yeah. I'm going to get to a couple of my super chats, and then Game Changer, I'm going to get you in. And welcome. It's always an interesting pleasure to chit chat with you, Game Changer. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't been by, but I'm here now.
Well, I appreciate you coming. Let me go over a couple of super chats, then I'm going to get your opinion on this. I appreciate you, Don Robinson. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work, ladies. I appreciate you. Thank you. And Me University, it's always a pleasure to see you as well. My bro went at 40 unexpectedly with clean undies, Mom. Oh, wow. Okay. Shout out to Mom. I guess that's why. Okay. Well, what you got for us, Game Changer?
Well, a couple of things. But first, to answer your question about feminism. So Frederick Douglass actually talks about something very similar. During the abolitionist movement, a lot of people, particularly white people who were, it was such a strong part of their identity being an abolitionist. They created networks, they created friends, they created a subculture, that was very against the standing culture. It was how they identified themselves. And when slavery was actually abolished, he talks about, because of course Frederick Douglass was an abolitionist too, he talked about the feeling of emptiness and misdirection that the people who were abolitionists had. It's like, okay, what are we now? We dedicated ourselves to abolishing slavery. Slavery's over. What do I do? What am I? I'm no longer an abolitionist. And he griped with this himself. And I think a lot of people who move towards change, they find themselves in that particular situation once the change happened. They didn't think, nobody, and he writes about the times, even Lincoln, nobody really expected slavery to end when it ended. It was just a fortunate series of events for the slaves of the time. So it happened, but the abolitionists, it was a cultural thing that ended, and they still wanted a fight of some sort. So a lot of people find themselves in that particular situation. Feminists, even when they got what they wanted in general, the right to vote, equality in the workplace, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they didn't stop. They didn't want to turn off that machine that defined them. So now we have, now they're just fighting for anything, and we have all of these, and I want to get into the details of the ridiculousness of it, but it's just a machine that was turned on probably justly, but it's on indefinitely, and now it's just disruptive to society, in my opinion.
I agree
because that's that never, I don't know if you ever heard like the never ending war.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of people, like an example for people that, let's say, don't understand what Game Changer coming from. You hear this, for those that knew who John McCain was, that's one of the issues. John McCain represented a lot of Vietnam veterans that felt when that war was quote unquote ended, they was really angry because they felt they didn't really have a chance to win the war. So a lot of them had that never ending war. I'm going to say syndrome, but that might not be the right word, but that never ending war cycle within, because they never felt that it ended. And I think that's, what Game Changer said is right on point. I believe feminism for a lot of people that was at the top in academia, it ended, but then it was that emptiness. I like the way he expressed it. It was that emptiness, and so they had to keep going. You know, they had to keep going, keep finding new things. I'm going to even say, if you want to equate that to, let's say, Black civil rights, is that same way. You know, we got to keep finding more racism. Even when it wasn't there, we got to create it so that we can feel validated of just being alive. Instead of appreciate it, we're trying to validate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it does. I mean, because when you're a part of a thing like that, it becomes your life purpose. You know, it becomes your Moby Dick. And, you know, there is that emptiness, like, you know, what do you do when you catch Moby Dick? And or what does the coyote do once he caught the roadrunner? He eats it, and then what does he do with the rest of his life? You know, so yeah, they're fighting that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is don't disrespect Al Bundy, brother. don't.
If you want to know, that was my boy, man. I love my Al Bundy, man.
No,
I was a fan.
Al Bundy was the first to give pushback to what you're talking about. You remember No Man? He started an organization.
Oh, stop. I remember that.
Yeah. He's seen it before any of us. When we were all knee high, Al Bundy had the No Ma'am shirt on.
He sure did.
He sure did.
You know, he came home every day and he didn't care about what's it called, fat shaming or fat acceptance.
Yeah.
You know, he said, I was working in the shoe store today and a fat woman walked in. He did not. He was the first person to stick it to.
Let me
what we
tell
have today.
you.
Yes.
Al Bundy, that could have been the very first manosphere.
Yeah.
You know what?
I think
it was.
Yes. Yeah. If you really think about the whole, why do you think I say, if you really think about the whole show conceptually, and I said, that's where we are right now. I mean, every aspect of that show was like, you could see it playing out right now.
Yeah.
The wife that doesn't cook, the daughter that's just all over the place, the son that just wants the baddest chicks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you can see it all played out.
You see it played out.
That's a
good point. I want to get to a couple of super chats. Marcus, I see you. I hope that you can join us, but let me read a couple of these. I believe feminism never had 5 waves. Okay. Well, it's at 4, but some people are debating if it's really 4, but for sure 3. And what's up, everyone? Preach on. Thank you so much, Marcus.
Thank you.
Let me and Dr. Thunder, thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure whenever I see you or listen to you or when you play. But I want to go over a couple of the waves in case you guys missed it at the beginning when I went over it. And the first wave was fairly simple. The goal was to recognize that women were humans, not property. And this was just pretty much for white women to have the opportunity to vote. On the second wave, it kind of emerged the different types of feminism. You have mainstream / liberal, radical, and cultural. But the radical feminism wanted to reshape society entirely, saying the system was inherently patriarchal and only an overhaul would bring liberation. So this is where we get the extremities of feminism was in the second wave. And then the third wave we have, this is where we started the intersectionality, which is, well, gender bias and racial bias is actually something that intersects, and we need to be fighting for both. So this is where Black women were, I guess, kind of pushed towards more the forefront. This is the Anita Hill situation, which really put Black women in the forefront too with feminism. Alice Walker, different books, authors. This is within the third wave of feminism. And then the last is what we're in particularly now. And I think this has to do with the Me Too movement and also trans women rights. So that is the breakdown of feminism and where we are right now. So Dr. Thunder, what do you have for us?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, you played with Aretha.
Yeah, I did. And I
That's
also,
huge.
yeah, and I also did a, it was off Broadway, but it's called Beautiful, the Carole King
Mm-hmm.
musical. I did that musical. Let's see here. It would have been a few years ago at this point. It was before the pandemic. But yeah, so that's one thing.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's awesome. That's great.
but good to see you. Good to see Uncle Stu, Game Changer. Hello, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Chalosiums.
yeah. So here's an issue that I have. See, the feminist thing. I don't have an issue with empowering women. Um, I have no issue with that. What I have an issue with is this idea of female supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually what we're dealing with here. And from its infancy, feminism has been a proxy of white supremacy. And if you look at the way that characterizing black men basically as super predators, if you look at how those that were battling for the right to vote, how they used that narrative as a way to gain the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you listen to um, the blatantly racist stuff that they said regularly, not even censoring it, in particular about black men. And then when you see how that whole white feminist thing was completely embraced by black women, and then the logical outgrowth of all of that is a lot of the rhetoric that you hear from the divestors, this selective breeding and all this kind of stuff, which has an eerie uh, resemblance to stuff that you'd hear Margaret Sanger say, right? So see, that is my issue. So empowering, yes, and I've never had an issue with facilitating, supporting women that I thought were serious, you know, about their craft. I've never had an issue with that, and have been very much involved in supporting and and helping women. But I don't like this idea that of especially in our community, this sort of artificial propping up of our women at the
Mm-hmm.
expense of the men. And I'm an academic, and I think academia has done as much or more than anyone has, or any institution has done, to actually damage the black community because of the disproportionate promotion of our women at the expense of the men. Someone said something earlier about, you're not going to give up power. Once you've achieved a certain amount of power, you're not going to give it up. So there are 20,000 fewer, and this is an old number, it's more like 30,000 fewer
Mm-hmm.
black men in the academy than black females. 30,000 fewer. I'm talking about professors. All right. And in order for that to change, those that have gained power would, the black women, would have to say, you know what, this is out of balance. This is not good for our sons. This is not good for future generations. We need to have more parity in our community, and they would have to say, you know what, all of these next hires, we're going to prioritize black men. That's never, ever, ever, ever going to happen. And frankly, any group that has achieved a certain amount of power, I mean, you kind of can't blame them for trying to hold on to that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a kind of a funky a funky sort of situation. I don't see any change. I see this as getting worse. And I have a 9-year-old son,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very, very concerned about his, his dating prospects. Just with, I mean, first of all, he's got a target on his back already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about dating prospects. I'm concerned about, schooling, everything else. I've got him in a private school. He's in a private Catholic school. He's never going to public school. But yeah, it's a funky situation.
Yeah, you know what's funny, and Game Changer, I know you wanted to say something, but I think it's interesting because now that we're in the fourth wave of making sure that we have trans rights, particularly trans women. And feminism started as we want women to have an equal playing field as men, but it's making a full circle because now trans women, it's biological men fighting back for a role and taking over what biological women wanted. So it's a full circle as far as with biology, where we wanted equal rights, but now being inclusive of trans women, it's also being inclusive of biological men taking advantage of what feminism was supposed to be. So again, it's still people trying to run from the patriarchy, but it's like we're including
the only
now in it. And so do you see the dichotomy of it is just interesting to me.
Yeah, the only feminists that seem to make sense to me are what have been characterized as TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminists.
Mm-hmm.
The sort of name calling, this is what the left does. They come up with an acronym so that they don't have to actually address your arguments. But those are the only, I mean, for the most part, those are the ones that I actually agree with a great deal of what they say, especially when they're talking about, I thought that feminism was about empowering women, about, giving women opportunities, not about smuggling in, a dude in a skirt.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doesn't seem to, it doesn't seem to work. And I'd also argue that there's actually only really been one wave of feminism. I know we tend to segment them up and we talk about the focuses of different time periods, but there's pretty much the same thread from the very beginning. And you listen to the way that the early feminists talked about, not needing men for anything, and how they believed that they were superior and everything else. It's that same thread of thought that sort of travels through all four of these supposed waves of feminism.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I want to add. Go ahead, Game Changer.
Hold on. I'm gonna get Game Changer in you, but let me read this. From Dane C. Thank you so much. It's the women's suffrage movement was not an abolitionist movement. They didn't care if slavery ended. They were mad Black men got the right to vote before white women. Okay.
So I do want to say this. I would challenge the notion that power isn't given up. It definitely has been, and I think that is the problem. I mean, there weren't any bombs, bricks, or bullets. When women got the right to vote, the men of the time just gave it up. Like, oh, okay, here you want the right to vote? Here you go, power. And as far as feminism goes, they continue to do so in each and every single wave. And they likely are doing so in this current wave. So, whether you call it waves or not, the current request of the group, has been met without opposition. And I think that is really why it's empowered and emboldened, because what they're doing is they are attacking until resistance is met. You see, I talked about the abolitionist group earlier, and yeah, there was that feeling, but guess what? It disbanded, it ended. They didn't continue to push for, slave rights or Black rights and anything like that for another 100 years. And the reason for that is because look at what it cost. Look at what freedom cost the first time. You had to take free Black men to volunteer after being freed to fight in a god awful war, getting bayoneted in a hole in Georgia somewhere, dying that way. Like, nobody wants to do that again. When you fight for something, it exhausts the movement like that. Same with the civil rights. It's like, do you really want the German Shepherd again? These things disband when it's hard fought. Nothing in feminism was ever hard fought. So they really, it's a lot of steam. It's like, oh, that was easy. It's like if you like, okay, I'm gonna make the mayor get rid of the potholes in my neighborhood, and then you go and you got all this fire in you, and then you said, okay, I'll get rid of them. It's like, oh, well, now I want you to put some stop signs and speed bumps. You're going to do that. But if the mayor says, oh no, you're gonna have to fight for this, you're gonna have to, then it's like, okay, I'm just happy with the potholes. It's that thinking. It's not fighting, it's power given up, Terry and Dr. Thunder, that it's power given up. So they're of course going to ask for more because they got the first ones so easily.
And I'm going to agree with you on that, Game Changer, because I'm also going to say, and that's probably me, I'm a staunch capitalist. So I believe money is power, and wherever the money is the power. So if there's a certain level of economics that's not being supported, then things got to change, and that's in politics as well as in business. So I argue that if Black men built themselves up from a capitalistic standpoint and built businesses and built infrastructure, which we're doing slowly, but if we build those things up, what's going on in academia is irrelevant, because that woman can sit up there, and if she know that her man is out there making real money and got some real structure, he can give her the real life that she's been really wanting. My job in my home is real simple. I go out here and I produce the money so that my woman can be as feminine as she want to be. If she decides tomorrow to quit, she can quit. If she decides she want to work part-time, she can work part-time. I built myself up to do that because I got tired even in my last marriage, but just in general, I wanted to be like my daddy. My daddy was the type of man that my mother worked all her life, but he had the mentality and the attitude that when my mother got tired of, and he from the South, got tired of fooling with these people, I'm gonna say it nicely, my mother can quit and live a life of just being a housewife. I think when we as men understand to build ourselves up economically and begin to build ourselves up to the point where we can be the economic foresight and the economic structure, we can alleviate a lot of these issues. Now, does that eliminate?
Let me get in, please.
Right. If I may, and here's why I say no. Okay. Al Bundy did exactly what you described, and look at Peggy. We can't work under the assumption that
you got Game Changer going back.
No.
I should have never said Al Bundy.
But it's a reflection of society. No, it's a reflection of society, though. I mean, what I'm saying is, we're working under the concept that if we behave like traditional men, that the women will all of a sudden become traditional women. And part of what the show was portraying was, listen, you could behave like a traditional man all you want to. That doesn't guarantee that they will behave as traditional women. And, history, especially with feminism and things like that, have shown us otherwise. It's actually proven that, it's like, listen, you could do that, but that doesn't mean that they're going to act that way. So I do want to, squash the notion that, if you build it, they will come, or if you do what they did in the past, then they will behave as they did in the past. I don't think that's necessarily true.
TJ, I want to get you in because I know you had something, but then I want to ask the gentleman a couple questions. So TJ, go ahead, and then I want to ask you guys a question.
Well, I was going to say that I don't think that I was going to basically disagree with Game Changer. I don't think it's going to be yielded because it goes back to what Dr. Thunder said. In my opinion, it has gone from us seeking equality to us be seeking superiority. And I think whether we intended for it to end up that way or not, that's where we are. And that's where we are as women. And because
think that. And like I said before, initially it was about go to college and do this, but then somehow in getting those things, we began to think that we were better than our men, and it has gotten even worse. So I think because it's gotten worse, I don't foresee that we are going to, I'm speaking generalities, that women are going to say, well, yeah, we got it wrong. Let's redo this thing. Let us yield our position of power, because essentially that's what it amounts to. Yield our position of power to whom they believe is oppressing us, which again, I said they believe. So I don't really see that.
Well, I wasn't saying that that I believe that women are going to yield their power. I was saying that because y'all were making the assertion that power is never yielded, and I was saying that men has yielded power to women. That's what I was saying. I feel that men are better people in the sense that they do stuff like that. And when they have power, they work in the best interest of men, women, and children. When women have power, they seem to work in the best interest of women. So no, I don't anticipate the feminists to yield power in that way. But also, I think that there will come a point very soon that they realize that they don't have any power. Simply put, the only power that they have is gifted to them by men. And once they take the power away from men, then they actually have nobody to gift it to them. So I think that once they reach a level of intelligence to where they come to that conclusion, then it will dissipate, but only then. And it will not be pretty, the process.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Game Changer.
Hold on, Uncle Stu, because I want to ask you all three, the fellas, a question.
Okay.
So with the different waves, or the wave of feminism, has it directly affected you guys?
Yes.
And if so, how?
Me too.
The Me Too movement has directly affected.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, and you don't have to go into that. I was just asking, has it directly? So
Yeah, it
the
has.
fourth wave is the Me Too. Okay.
No, I get confused. Okay.
But yeah, no, but just feminism in general. But you have, because of the Me Too movement.
The Me Too movement, and I've been in touch with that transgender thing with my grandson, because we had to go into the hospital and tell him we putting a sex on his birth certificate. Oh yeah.
That's the thing.
That's why they was trying to argue. They was trying to argue about, hey, you don't have to put a gender on the birth certificate. And we like, no, he has all of the parts. He is this. So yeah, I've
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Thunder, what is yours? Celine, thank you so much. Women are supposed to be virgins, trans, not men. Oh, all right now. Okay, so Celine, Dr. Thunder has.
I think she said trad, like traditional.
Traditional.
Yeah,
traditional. Oh, okay, I thought it was talking about. I was like, well.
Yeah, no, she was saying virgin / traditional. Not
right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Game Changer. Dr. Thunder, has feminism directly affected you?
Most assuredly. I'm an academic, as I was saying before, and there is directly because of feminism, the education system is the way that it is. So if you track the education system, so in its infancy, it always sort of biased towards the girls. But momentarily, they said, okay, and this is when we're talking about white boys, they were like, hey, we need to do something to try to create some more parity between the performance of the white girls and the white boys. And so they made some changes, and it had the expected result, better results for the boys. But then they reverted back to the previous sort of ideology, which prioritizes a lot of sitting in the seat, a lot of looking at a book, that kind of stuff when kids are young, and that boys don't want to do that. And that's not, it's not a reflection of a lack of intelligence or capability. It is just that men and women are different. And I know that's a controversial statement now. to even say that men and women are different. So that's an interesting thing. If you look at the high school valedictorians and class presidents, and this has been the case for a long time, and this is not just a Black community thing, it's an American society thing. 93% of the of the high school class presidents and valedictorians are female. 93%. Now, unless what you're saying is that we think that the boys are just chopped liver and they just ain't worth nothing, and that's why the girls are just outpacing them and they're just better than they are, unless that's what we're saying, which a lot of feminists actually think that's true, by the way. Unless that's what we're saying, then we need to look at the system and say, what is it about the way that we do education that's creating these disparities? And then now you see in college, you're seeing that it's a 60-40, 60% females attending, 40% males. And that statistic is far worse in the Black community. I actually did one of my Car Thunder episodes on this topic recently. It might have been within the last couple of weeks, where I detailed in colleges the percentages of men and women, and I did it on the white side, and then I also did it on the Black side. And it's appalling that we just look at this and treat it like it's okay. This is standard fare, no big deal, nothing to talk about here. That stat that I said, the 93% stat I said before, that's been the case for at least 30 years. But nobody says anything about that. We act like it's okay. And I basically agree with what Uncle Stu was saying, but I would say that I think what happens in the academy does matter. The reason that it matters is because the academy is involved in about 10 years ahead of time social reengineering. So all of these sort of crazy social reengineering, woke stuff, all of that stuff starts in colleges and in universities. So the stuff that we're seeing today, all of the crazy stuff that we see in society today that they're doing, that stuff has been around for about 10 years in the academy. So they're actually pushing this stuff out of these universities. And so that's why you have to get control of that. You have to fix that problem. But yeah, so that would be a pretty direct way. And I'll tell you, the only reason that because I'm a unicorn, right? I'm a unicorn. So the only reason that I got the job that I got is because my predecessor had a particular priority structure in mind, right? He was also a black male. So he had a particular thing. He saw certain issues. Now, obviously I needed to be able to do the job, but if those of us that are in the academy aren't aware of the stuff that's going on and don't actually prioritize, then what was 20,000, which is now 30,000, is going to be 40, 50,000 fewer, black men in the academy than black females. And the university system is incentivized because of Title IX to count women as a minority. So black women are counted twice.
A double minority. Yeah.
As a double minority. And so what that does is it ends up marginalizing the black men. And then what sucks is that when you prioritize and even have the audacity to celebrate the excellence of black men, the same folks will look at you and treat that as if that is somehow racist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's some good points.
I'm not trying to do a pushback. I want to do a question. Dr. Dunda, tell me, am I right or wrong, or is there data on this? My understanding, and I'm going more on the HBCUs. Historically, Black men has never really been college oriented, even going through the Reconstruction era. And I don't think Black men started really digging into high levels of education until like the mid 90s when the whole Bill Cosby thing showed up. Am I right or wrong in that era? Because I mean, we was basically able to work blue collar jobs and make way more than certain industries.
Yeah. And I'm gonna
I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying, you know, the numbers wise.
Hold on. Dr. Thunder, go ahead and respond, please. And then Game Changer, I wanted your response to off the question.
All right.
Yeah, so this is a good point. It is the case that Black men never have been as interested in education, higher education, as Black females. That's true. But we saw a skyrocketing of the difference. Probably started in the 80s, right? You start to see a skyrocketing of way more of our women going to school because they were getting grants and all kinds of government incentives that were not available to Black men. That was part of it. And I always tell folks, you know, college is expensive. So if you go to college, you want to know why you're going to college.
Right.
I counsel a lot of students regularly that went to college and they have what's called an exploring degree. Exploring means they don't know what they're doing and they just spending their parents' money.
Right.
They haven't worked it out yet. It's too expensive for that. I tell folks that it would be better not to go to college and get a job than to just go to college and don't know what you're doing.
I agree.
But now there's tremendous pressure that's placed on kids to go to college because it's basically an extension of high school.
Right.
And a lot of the academic rigor has been reduced, and students actually have the ability to get professors removed from certain courses and all kinds of stuff based on electronic evaluation, which is anonymous.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of all kinds of issues.
I hate to interrupt, but
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt. I have a meeting in like 5
go
minutes.
ahead,
So.
Game
Go ahead,
Changer.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So to answer your question, real quick. Yeah, I lost a job because of that, because of a comment that I said that I thought was benign. However, you know, they didn't apologize for it. It was one of those things. So that happened. I received an F on a paper for something, and I was just in humanities in college. I was deemed by the teacher, who was obviously a feminist, as a sexist, because she would ask questions that I felt were stupid. You know, I was made to look at artwork and says, how does it express feminine principles? And I looked, and to me, I'm not, you know, an art connoisseur, and it was just like a bunch of paint splattered everywhere. And I said it had a lot of pink in it. And she said that was sexist. I was like, I don't see feminist principles in this. I see like some white splashes here. It was ridiculous. So she didn't like me. And on a paper that I had to do about the Shakespeare book Othello, she asked a question. And for those of you who've read Othello, to me, it's more about tribalism at the time, racism, blind racism, you know, men competitive nature, things like that, than it had anything to do with women. And she said, how did the men betray their wives? How did Othello and Iago betray their wives? I was like, what? Because betrayal requires initial trust, and there wasn't an initial trust there. So I explained that, and what I felt was a very poignant paper, and I got an F on that. It was ridiculous. Yeah. So
yeah,
those are
Okay.
Hey, let me ask you a quick question, David, before you go. And if you can't,
I'm sorry, Doctor.
Oh, you got it?
Excuse me, Uncle Sid. I got
Okay, okay.
All right. Thank you, Game Changer, so much. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Bye.
Bye. All right. And then you guys, I'm going to, well, we got us on a close up. Back that up a little bit, please.
Look, I like to be close to the esteemed Dr. Thunder now, you know.
Right, me too. To the top.
And not that close, yeah.
But before I go, I'm gonna get ask you guys the last question and your final thoughts on where we are now with the feminist movement. Do I think it's going anywhere? Absolutely not. Do I think it's needed? Absolutely not. So we know it's not going anywhere. Do I think it's needed? No. You guys maybe think something else, which I can probably assume what you're going to say. If it is needed still, why? If it is not, then what does feminism, the movement, have or need to do to try to make more sense and for it to be balanced for equality? If that makes sense to you guys, and I can explain a little bit more, but go ahead, Dr. Thunder, I'll get yours, your response to that. So again, do you think we need feminism now? If so, yes. If not, then what can we do as a community, or what could you do as men to make sure that equality is actually equal and that no one is trying to overtop anyone, and equality is not necessarily has anything to do with equity?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that I mean there's no right that men have that women do not have. And when you take a look at this whole supposed gender pay gap, we know that it's not based on it's not based on it's apples and oranges largely. So women usually will take more breaks. They'll have kids,
right?
And then they need to be off for 4 or 5 years, and then they come back into the job market. And in that time, the men have been working consistently over that period of time. And so you can't penalize the men because the women have kids, because some of the proposed solutions for this thing is to basically stagnate the pay of the men that have been working the whole time. The other thing is that on the balance of averages, men and women are different with respect to being agreeable. Women tend to be more agreeable. Men tend to go in there and ask for raises frequently.
Right.
Right. And then men are also usually willing to pick everything up and move. And women are not usually as willing to do that. So there's actual reasons. Men tend to be interested in things, and women tend to be interested in careers that are surrounding people. And the people kind of jobs, for the most part, don't pay as much.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think that we really need we need that, as it were. Now, how do I see? So basically, feminism has basically thrown the pendulum way on one side. And what's happening now is there's a lot of trying to balance, and this is why places like the manosphere, the Black manosphere, red pill spaces, why a lot of these conversations are being had, is in an attempt to try to push the pendulum closer to the middle. Now, do I think that that's going to be totally successful? No, I don't. And I think that the thing that has most facilitated a lot of the delusion that is normal, that is common, is the fact that men have created the world, the infrastructures, all the stuff that supports comfort, you know, that supports safety, you know, stuff like electric, you know, stuff like, you know, heating their house, all of that. Men have developed the infrastructure so well and have subdued the earth to the extent that it is actually possible for people to believe that they could do it by themselves without the existing infrastructure. And the fact is that is totally delusional. And if and when we ever get to the place where stuff resets because of, you know, WW3 or because of a number of other things that can happen, I think you'll see almost immediately most of these delusions disappear instantaneously.
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. And I think that's what I was talking about earlier. And then I brought up the clip of like Jordan Peterson. It's, you know, you want equality, but you really don't, because being an equal playing field means look at the jobs that you don't want to touch that men hold 99% of. You want that to be equal too. And then,
oh yeah, like yeah, so you never see any clamoring for parity in lumberjacks,
yeah, no,
skyscraper window cleaners,
right, no, absolutely not. So yeah, I hear you.
post hole diggers.
Yeah,
No,
Jordan Peterson
nobody
talks
wants
about
parity in those jobs.
bricklayers. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Courtney, I mean, you can do a show.
Hey, I've been
show everybody that you can take a whole engine out of a car, can't you?
Hey, Courtney, if I can say, I've been actually trying to get in touch with you because I'd love to collaborate with you, bring you on my platform to interview you on my Conversations with Dr. Thunder series, if you'd be interested in that.
yeah, of course I will.
Okay, that's great. I don't know how to get in touch with you exactly. Maybe you could put your email in the back or something.
I got you.
That's great.
Yeah, Dr. Dutta, she gonna represent the HBCU.
That's a whole nother conversation that I plan on having. It's funny because before I got on here, I was on the phone with Quest. If y'all familiar with him, he used to be on Lapeef all the time. And we were talking about, well, what do you think about this HBCU stuff? And I know you're a stark HBCU proponent, but y'all out here looking crazy. And I haven't.
Yeah, because you disappeared during Deion Sanders. I was waiting for that too now.
I haven't. I need a moment on that. But Dr. Sutter, I am sending you my information in the back chat. It's super easy. But go ahead. Did you have my question? I know I
got the question.
Okay, what do you think?
I think feminism needs to be over this whole argument. And as far as who, I really think this is a woman's argument now, especially with this new alphabet community. I think that's women that really needs to deal with it. And I do see it being sprinkled. The video you showed, I've seen it on two other big female YouTuber channels. So I think that's a conversation that really needs to be had amongst women. I think we as men, we got our own situation that we need to be dealing with. So I agree. We do need to have a conversation, but I think that needs to be more of a female conversation. And we as men, we need to do stuff on our own side, because that's not really we only argue when it truly affects us. Me Too has been a huge effect on men as a whole. But yeah, I really think that's really a woman's issue. And because I put it like this: if you didn't raise daughters, you have sons, you're in that fight, because your son could be the very next person that will be affected by it.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think this is a woman's issue from what feminism is now turning what it's turning to be. And I am seeing where before with feminism where it was eliminating a lot of men out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because now it is turning out to eliminate women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's, and the rights that it's champion now, it's not women.
I know it's badly affecting women. When I got my daughters calling me talking about, Dad, speak on this subject. It's like, I'm a man. I can't speak on this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there's certain topics that I feel, whether it's YouTube related or just me being a male, I can't speak on. If I tried to say the things you said, I'll be called every name, everything up under the book. So I couldn't speak on it, but I was able to speak on, like the Aretha Franklin thing, because again, when my oldest daughter's blowing up my phone talking about, and we having 2-hour conversations,
Yeah.
she's only 37. So at 37, she's having this real anger and frustration with that. Yeah, I know now it's really affecting, women. And then I was on another female's channel and it was having the same conversation. And it was like, here she is, the heterosexual. She brought a lesbian on, and even a lesbian was mad about what was going. So it was like, no, this is strictly, a woman's issue, definitely.
Yeah, and I think more women need to speak about it. But again, it's now women are being offended by trying to protect womanhood because it's being
Yeah.
all this stuff. And, I'm old school with it, so I still hold my old school thoughts and ideas. And I know we're in a new age and trying to also be respectful, but then I'm trying to be respectful, but if I'm offended because you're disrespecting me as far as what I believe and who I am, then that's a problem. So it's the appropriation of womanhood that I don't appreciate, that offends me. But this is a woman issue, and women gonna have to say something about it.
Yeah. Well, I look at it like this. I like to say, coming from a military background, you have 5 branches of the military.
Mm-hmm.
So in this situation, you're gonna have to have 5 different ways to attack this entire situation. So, like for an example, Dr. Thunder's gonna have to attack it on academia. I'm gonna have to attack it from the capitalists. That's why I was getting ready to ask Game Changer. So Game Changer may have to attack it in his direction. So we all got to come from various directions to attack the situation, so that we can come out on the other side, because we didn't get attacked one direction. We got attacked in multiples of directions. So each one is going to have to pick a lane and fight in that lane.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, you guys, I'm going to drop you. I'm going to go ahead and close up. It has been a phenomenal conversation. It always turns out to be something that just brings my little spirit to joy. So I thank you. I thank you guys so much. I'm honored.
I just want.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick. Thanks for allowing me to contribute.
Yeah.
I commend what it is that you're doing, and I really appreciate it. It's not often. It's not often that women are speaking up on behalf of men, and sometimes folks question what the motives are. You are one that I don't have any question of what the motives are, and so I appreciate what you're doing, and please be encouraged.
Thank you so much. That meant a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, keep up the good work. And me and Dr. Thunder, we waiting on you to get that motor up out that car,
I'm gonna Google it when I get out.
You get that motor out, and then have your brother just standing to the side looking at you.
I got you. Thank you guys so much. Dr. Thunder, I'll be talking to you, and Uncle Stu, I'm gonna go visit you at your page. I'll see you.
Trust me, the next live may be real controversial. You may need to help me.
All right, hit me up. Let me know.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be open with the topic. I'm getting ready to attack the topic of the angry Black woman.
And I'll be over there.
Yeah, I'm going to need some help.
I got you.
All right.
All right. Bye, you
Later.
guys.
Take care, Dr. Thunder.
Bye-bye. Yay. Thank you guys so much. What a great topic. I'm so glad that we were able to talk about it, dissecting what feminism is, the particular waves, how it looks today, how it's probably going to look within the next 5 years and 10 years, where it has evolved into something that I don't think it meant to be, because it's infighting within feminist I say communities, but amongst the women. They're fighting amongst each other. So I don't even think the movement is coherent on what they really want. Do I think we need feminism now? No, I do not. I do not think that women, white women, Spanish women, Black women, we're not oppressed. We do have the opportunity to do anything that we desire to do. However, that equality should not equate to equity. I do not believe that just because we have equal rights and we might not be on the playing field, so I need extra assistance to try to make it an equal playing field with equity. No, you're equal now. That's what you wanted. So work with what you got. And if you want equality, then you have to do it on every aspect in life. So you want to be a CEO, you want to see 50% of women become a CEO of whatever business. Okay. Well, with that energy, I want you to be 50% of people that are taking out the trash, that are building the homes, that are majority doing the STEM work. Then that needs to be equal. Look at the prison systems. You want equality? Well, if you want 50% of women to be doctors, then we need 50% of women, the same amount of men that's getting incarcerated. We need to lock up those women. But the thing is that won't ever happen. There are and will forever be things that women can get away with that men can't. There's always going to be things that men are able to do that women can't. And that's just reality. And equality and it trying to be, I guess, what they wanted to be, I just not seeing it. And it's okay to be different. And quite frankly, I wish we went back to it being a little bit more traditional. I do not know, and I will never know, the reason why women want to do everything that men want to do. Y'all can keep it, okay? Continue to build, continue to pave the streets that I drive my car on, and I will put the turkey in the oven. So I appreciate you guys for joining me today. If you guys can please like, comment as well what you think feminism should be, shouldn't be, and if we end it, how in the world can we end it? Yeah, I don't see that happening. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate the love and support. Y'all have no idea. And thank you for making these conversations, I think, a little different than a lot of people. We actually are able to come together and talk and not argue, bicker, and fight. So that I appreciate you guys for too. So until next time, my family, I love y'all. I care about you guys. Yeah, be a blessing, you guys. Thank you.